Thank you. Good evening, Litchfield. Welcome to the June 9th meeting of the Board of Selectmen. May I all rise and pledge allegiance? I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America, and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. The board is just coming out of a paperwork review session, and first up is review and approval of consent items. In tonight's consent, we have the AP manifest for May 27th for $101,020.47. June 3rd for $441,404.76. For June 10th, $56,681.57. We have a payroll manifest for May 29th, $68,250.25. June 5th for $63,995.61, and June 12th for $67,286.82. We have a purchase order for CBIZ CPAs PC for $31,500. This was approved by contract on August 28th, 2023 by the Board of Selectmen. We have a tax collector reconciliation for May of 2025. We have one veterans tax credit approval, and we have the correspondence from May 10th through June 6th. Any items we would wish to pull out, or I'll take a motion?
Motion to approve.
A motion by Mr. Leary. Do I have a second?
Second.
Second by Ms. Queenan. Any discussion? All in favor, say aye. Aye. Opposed? Motion carries 4-0-0. Tonight we have a couple public hearings. First, we have the AARP Community Challenge Grant Agreement. Let me just read the public hearing notice. So, public hearing notice for acceptance of grant funds pursuant to RSA 31:95-B. The Litchfield Board of Selectmen will conduct a public hearing on Monday, June 9th, 2025 at 6:30 p.m. at the Town Office Meeting Room, 2 Liberty Way, Litchfield, New Hampshire, to discuss the acceptance of an AARP Community Challenge Grant in the amount of $10,150. The funds from the grant will be used to install a dock at Darrah Pond. The project is managed by the Litchfield Recreation Commission. Residents wishing to speak on this matter are invited to attend, or residents may send comments by email to kkleiner@litchfieldnh.gov. So tonight is a public hearing. Who is coming forward to help?
Do we have to open it?
We'll open it for public hearing. We'll make a motion to open the public hearing.
So made.
Do I have a second? All in favor, say aye.
Aye. Aye.
Motion carries 4-0-0. So we are now officially open in the public hearing. Evening.
Good evening.
How would you like to start, Kim?
There were no comments received by email or by drop-off or in person.
Okay.
And the grant has been reviewed by Primex and legal, and there are no issues.
And I saw we got the dock permit today, too.
We did receive the dock permit from the New Hampshire.
Thank you. There were 3,460 applicants. We were one of 283 to receive flagship grant, which is designed for improving public spaces for all ages and abilities. I think a part of what played into that is the makeup of our population. We're a little bit ahead of the national trend in percentage of people over the age of 50. Our school has shown decline in numbers over the last 12 years. It kind of tells us people are choosing to stay in town, even when their children have grown and left. I'm an example of that. You're an example of that. And the Recreation Commission is committed to providing activities and programs for all ages and all abilities. Sometimes there's a misconception that it's just for youth. In our town, it's important that we provide activities for all ages and abilities. This initially was brought to us by a resident who is, I'll say, over 50. and is an active volunteer in the town. So he helped with, exploring the options. The dock will be handicap accessible, so it'll be wide enough to hold wheelchair, and it'll have a ramp instead of a step.
How are you gonna get there down the hill? Are they gonna drive?
Yeah, we'll be doing some work with the tractor, making sure things are smooth and accessible down there. There are some requirements. AARP asks that, when we do our signage, that we acknowledge them on the sign as being, ones who awarded the grant for the project. We are required to have, over 15 different volunteers. And the hopes is that when they provide, an award, is that others in the community will see that and choose to chip in and help, and it'll increase volunteerism. So that's how it came about, and I'm really surprised. We were one of so few to get it, but I'm really excited about it too. So a lot of people do fish down at Dara Pond, and with the cleanup conservation is doing of the water and milfoil down there. And it's part of our CAP to kind of improve that area and make it open to more activities. So kind of all fit in with everything that recreation stands for.
If I could add to that, Judy did a wonderful job on this. She was really the spearhead in applying for this, in identifying it and applying for it. Did all the legwork herself, so thank you, Judy. I think it'll be a nice addition down there for boating, fishing, and eventually swimming. It will be a removable dock, so it won't be out there permanent in the winter time, you know, getting ice damage and stuff like that. There'll be a place to start off to the side of the beach. I think it'll be a nice addition down there.
So just one more thing, AARP has not made the public national announcement yet, so we are asked to not make an official announcement, although we have to go through this legal
We have to go
process.
through the legal process, yeah.
They're gonna make their announcement, on the 18th of June, and then we are free after that to make our public announcement. However, we would like to, it gives us a little time for planning.
Okay.
And that's,
I think we understood that. It's unfortunate, the process, what the process is, so. Anybody watch it will know about it, but
yeah,
that's where it'll stay for now. All right.
but it's not our official public announcement, so.
Nice job.
Yeah,
Really
it was
nice
nice
job,
work.
guys.
It'll be nice to
Doing
see
great
it too, and see it get used. Any questions from anybody? Okay, so.
No, I just have a comment. I just love the email that you sent today. Did you come down from Canada? Were you still traveling today?
Yeah, but because your last meeting would have been on Memorial Day, and so
Yeah.
we couldn't get everything in time, so it had to be today. That
Right.
the document has to be signed and submitted by Wednesday, and our e-supplier account also has to be set up, because they'll direct deposit the money. So, yes, I made sure that I was,
No, that was
so I
great.
could answer any questions.
I laughed, not because of it. I just said it was so cute. The drawing you did with the hand in, with the fence thing, with the fence thing, but the fact that you were driving, and you just said, what dedication, you know, it made me smile.
Well,
for
I
a
just
while.
wanted to be prepared, and then I'm like, oh no, it didn't send, and it's not within 24
That was
hours of
great.
and the only one that sent
We're all
was the
set.
one
Don't worry
that
about
showed that.
We had a visualization of, we knew what it was.
Yeah.
We knew what it was like.
And Paul Kelly also worked with us on planning the placement of that and how
The fence, yeah.
to keep it, the fence area
The gated
to
area.
get down there, yeah. So,
Good.
this will provide
Way
some.
to work with everybody. Nice job. Really impressed.
Oh, thank you.
Is there anybody in the public to have a comment or in support of, or any comment? Good, Peter.
I very much appreciate it and support it.
Peter, anything?
Yeah, just wanted to make a comment. Number one, to thank Judy and Brendan for leading this effort for us. It's a great example of volunteers bringing in revenue to the town that is not taxpayer money. So this was her initiative. She did all the work for it, and I'm just very grateful. So great additional access point for all ages and ability in town. So very much support it.
I guess we'll close the public hearing and then make the motion, right? So at this time, I'll motion to close the public hearing
At 6:40.
at 6:40, yes.
Sure, I'll make the motion.
Do I have a second?
You want me? I'll do the second.
Okay.
Okay, motion made by Ms. Queenan, seconded by Mr. Larry at 6:40. All in favor, say aye. Aye. So motion carries 4-0-0. I'll take a motion to accept the grant.
So made.
Motion made by Mr. Leary, do I have a second? Seconded by Mrs. Plansky. Any discussion? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Motion carries 4-0-0. Congrats.
Thank you.
Thank you so much.
Thank you for supporting the project.
Thank you, Judy.
Great work, guys. I'll see you tomorrow.
Thank you. All right, we have a second public hearing. Let me just read the announcement, and then we'll go in, we'll open it up. Litchfield Board of Selectmen will hold a public hearing on Monday, June 9th, at 6:30 PM, Town Office, Meeting Room, at 2 Liberty Way, Litchfield, New Hampshire, for purpose of receiving a public comment for the following. Private donation pursuant to RSA 31:95-B, acceptance of donated work and materials from Continental Paving in the amount of approximately $35,000 of asphalt used in repair of Albuquerque Ave from Bristol to Simone Lane. They would like to use a new piece of equipment at no cost to the town. This is a section of the roadway already scheduled for maintenance in 2025. The residents were invited to attend this meeting and or send comments to Kay Kleiner. I assume we received no written comments?
Correct, there were no written comments, and just for the public, this work was approved by the board on May 23rd
Yes.
at a meeting.
So a motion to open for public hearing?
Made.
So do I have a second? Second, so motion made by Mr. Leary, seconded by Ms. Plansky. All in favor, say aye. Aye. Motion carries 4-0-0. We're open for public comment. Anybody in the audience have any comment?
I've driven over the road.
Yeah, it's nice, nice and smooth.
Potholes, yes.
Very nice.
Smooth, yeah.
The timing was perfect for the,
No
The,
taxpayer dollars, so that's always great.
I have a point of clarification. Up in the portal, it says $38,400, but down below it says 35,000.
I think that was the announcement. I believe the number came in at 38,000, so you're right. So I think we did the award with the estimate was 35,000, but the approximate now. So we're gonna receive $38,000 even, right? Was the
Yes.
total
Not
value?
38.4?
38.4, sorry.
38.4.
Yep.
Okay.
But it was, the announcement was done with the estimate.
Yeah, we did say approximate too, so.
Mhm.
So for everybody listening, the actual donation value is $38,400. Again, at no cost to the taxpayers, and is a gift from Continental Paving.
Thank them for their generosity. They do a lot for the town.
Yeah, would it be appropriate to send a note from the board, thanking them for it? So we can do that, and then we'll sign it. Seeing no more comment, I'll close public hearing. By a motion? Mr. Leary, second? Ms. Plansky, all in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Motion carries 4-0-0. So I'll take a motion to accept.
I'll do it again. So made.
A motion made by Mr. Leary, seconded by Ms. Queenan. Any discussion? I think the only thing is, let's send a letter of our gratitude. All right, then, take a vote. All in favor, say aye. Aye. Opposed? Motion carries 4-0-0. And that completes the public hearing portion of the meeting. Request for any additional items for any other business to be added tonight? Anything else want to be added? No? Okay. Public input will occur no earlier than 6:45. Let's move into the business agenda. Approval of minutes for May 12th. Anybody had a chance to take a look? I was not at that meeting, so I will be abstaining, but
I think I found just a small thing. I have to go down to my, let's see, I was printing, page 15. When I was speaking about NRPC. Get there. Is Matt here? No.
no, Matt's not here, but we'll.
It's a big name change, but I'll say it slow. So he intertwined a couple of things. He just has to add a section D for me. So only the first paragraph under C for NRPC applies to NRPC. If he can add D, that applies to,
PFAS one.
yeah, the PFAS. That applies to, and here it is, here's the name. the Commission on the Environmental and Public Health Impacts of, just say PFAS. So, Commission of the Environmental and Public Health Impacts of PFAS. Just so you know, that's the actual name here. I just don't wanna say.
Oh, wow.
It's,
I'm not a doctor.
perfluorinated and polyfluorinated chemicals, just say PFAS. And so those bullets, the remaining bullets belong to that commission I was put on to listen to the PFAS updates.
So make a motion to accept them with change, with that one change?
Yeah, unless anyone else has any other.
Unless there's any other changes. Bob, you have anything? No?
No.
Make a motion to accept them with the change that Kim.
Okay, motion made by Ms. Plansky. Do I have a second?
Yes, second.
Second by Mr. Leary. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, abstained, motion carries 301. Yeah, 301. All right, next up is the approval of minutes for May 23rd. That was that Friday afternoon meeting we had to discuss the donation that we received, and we had a public hearing for earlier today. I don't think, Bob, you were not here,
I
right?
was not there for that.
I didn't see anything wrong with the minutes. It was a short meeting, right? We just got through some basic stuff.
I make a motion that we accept those minutes as written.
Motion made by Ms. Plansky. Do I have a second?
Second.
Second by Ms. Queenan. Any other discussion? Hearing none. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Abstain?
Aye.
Motion carries 301. With Mr. Leary abstaining. All right. All right, 6:45. So I'm gonna open the floor for public input at 6:45 before we get into some of the meatier part of our agenda tonight. If you come forward, and Ron, if I could ask you to fix the mics.
Yeah, I was gonna do that.
Yeah. I'm not sure how many people, I'm sure we heard you, but. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Name and address, sir?
Hi, Ron Oblinus, 15 Riverview Circle. Just a few comments, kind of just reiterating some of the things I've said in recent weeks. And the reason I chose to come tonight, I saw on your agenda, further on down, you have capital improvement discussion. I assume this is kind of planning and talking about things that might go onto the CIP plan. And so one of the things I want to just reiterate to the board is that in my research on some things, the planning documents that we have indicate that the population for the town is, over the next 25 years, is essentially flat. It does not grow any more than we are now. And so as you begin to look at plans for, whether it be the police station modifications or any other build-outs, we need to keep in mind that we are not building toward, adding another 4,000 or 5,000 people to the town. We need to be looking at what's needed to support where we are now. And that's a very different outlook and plan compared to if we're projecting for growth in some manner. So the reason I bring that up is, on the police station, I presented some thoughts on how we could modify the existing. I just asked the chief, he'd looked at him, he says some things I had in my plan satisfied it and others didn't. But my point being is the existing police station, if you remember, when you look at the size required in the impact statement, calls for, at our level now and in the future, a building at around 6,200 square feet. So that's not too far away from where we are now. So as you begin to look and plan about looking at what to do, I really want to highlight that you need to stay within the context of the documents that are here and use them as a basis. If you don't, then really you're not following process within the town. And you're looking to do something that is not consistent with your planning documents. And when you do that, then people probably won't support it. So thank you, appreciate it.
Thank you, Ron.
Thanks, Ron.
Anyone else? No? Before we go into policy review, if there's no objection, I'd like to do the rec commission stuff first.
I apologize, I scheduled it later, just,
I appreciate that.
but
Plans have changed, so.
no
Sorry.
reason to keep them
Well, I'm gonna-
around for that, all
We
that.
go ahead and
fun.
close public input at 6:50, and we're just gonna move down the agenda to, rec commission. Well, the first topic is gonna be town hall floor, so. The second topic is the, fence, so.
Good evening, I'm Chris Burns, the head chair of the Recreation Commission. And for the first topic, yeah, it's the floor at Talent Hall. We've received a proposal to repair and refinish the floor there. The pickleball and basketball groups have used that primarily, but other sports use it, year-round as well. Pickleball has done a great job of assisting to identify some of the areas of concern. And since we're going ahead and having the frame underneath the floor repaired, I think it's time to address the main part of the floor as well. So we received a quote from New England Sports Floors. They're proposing that they're gonna sand the entire floor down. They're gonna repair a number of the dead spots that the pickleball community has identified in the floor by injecting a filler of sorts underneath the planks, underneath the wood, that's gonna just bind that to the subfloor and not make it as dead. And then they're gonna put down 2 coats of an oil-based seal, reline the courts for basketball, 2 pickleball courts, and I believe it's lined for volleyball as well, even though I don't know if I've ever seen that played in there, but they said all the existing lines. And then apply 2 coats of an oil-based finish. So the reasons for this, like I said, it's been many years in the making. I can't, the last time it was refinished was well before my time here, so, I'm not sure the time frame there. But anybody that's been in there and played on that floor knows just how slippery the surface is, even after dry mopping it and sweeping it. As I mentioned, there are many dead spots. This work will repair those spots, as well as help to level some of the areas where it is warped. And it'll make the surface safer for all the athletes and people that use the facility year-round. For a funding source, the Recreation looked to use the expendable trust for this and voted the approval 6-0-0. And do you have a copy of the quote? Did I send that?
Yep.
Yeah, okay.
Yep, it's there.
All right, yeah, so the grand total of the quote was $23,600. The rec committee approved up to $25,000 from the expendable trust.
So Chris, I'm confused because all the years I've been hearing this floor was not repairable. It was beyond repair, beyond its life, and I mean, I would assume this company's been around a long time.
Yeah,
So what changed? Cause and also see, there's 2 quotes here too, so I guess.
there are, yeah, so the first quote was to put down a synthetic material, which is outside of our budget. I believe there's about 50,000 in the expendable trust, and that was a little north of 60,000 to do that work. So I did have, over the last couple of years, I've had a few flooring companies look at this. They're the ones that got back to me with a quote this go-around. But of the 2 companies that looked at it, we opened up the hatch over in the front corner of the building, looked at the flooring itself, the actual oak. Seemed plenty thick enough, and with the engineering survey that we did, had done, what was that, about a year ago now, maybe? Not quite, but they seem to think that the frame is more than capable of supporting it. And the board seemed thick enough to be able to sand and refinish.
I think that goes against what I remember, saying the floors were not sandable anymore.
No, both of the companies that looked at it said they were, and the engineers had no problem with it either.
They haven't been redone in probably
Long time,
25 years plus.
No idea.
I think they would, I'm trying to think, I thought they were done like when I first started in town, 2010 or something like that, maybe, or maybe even longer than that, actually.
You're right, it was around that time, I remember, because whenever anyone was using town hall, we had covers that we put on the floor,
Yeah.
like, we have a new floor, we don't want anyone to step on it,
Okay.
type of thing.
And they sanded them down and,
Yes, I
And
think at that
2000?
time I was our softball rep to
okay.
the Recreation Commission, not actually on.
And when they did it, they said
But,
this will be the
yeah,
last
but
one.
I don't recall like having a professional engineer look at it and having the inspections or whatever you wanna call it done that we did this year. Is that right,
Mhm.
Chris?
Yep.
Back then, it was just, I don't know who came in and looked at it, but somebody did and said, oh, no, they're too old and,
But GMS
but
had
this,
that
it was
problem?
pretty, they did, I mean, they did.
GMS
GMS has the
Has the
It was-
same, that, yeah,
They were trustworthy.
I think I was
Have they
confusing
done
them.
any of the other sports buildings in town? Any of the other gym floors?
This company?
Yeah.
No, not that I know of.
No?
Wasn't, and this maybe, I may have this wrong too, but didn't, when Kevin Lynch was the building inspector, did he have an concern about the floor underneath?
He looked at the
itself?
supports,
He was fine
and the
with that
supports
too?
were fine, yeah.
Okay.
That's it.
Yeah,
They're
he
gonna
did mention
fix
that
that,
at our
though.
meetings when he was temporarily the Board of Selectmen's rep,
And your
that he'd
engineer
been
also
under there,
confirmed that.
and,
TFI.
yeah.
Supports are good, the frame's good.
Yeah.
That was
Yeah.
the biggest one.
Yeah.
Yeah, there was only one area of concern with that, and it was one of the
That's
support
it.
beams in the pocket against the wall near the door, exterior door to the, over by the bathrooms, had some rot in it, and that's being addressed by a different company that's already been approved.
Okay.
We're just waiting for that work to happen.
I mean, the gym, the floor needs to be taken care of, it's being used, and I don't see us ever replacing the building at this point, so, I mean, not at this juncture. Yes, Ms.
I would just note that, so this is a very reputable company, but because of the specialty of the, product that's being done, there's only this quote. Rec did reach out to try to get other quotes, so I just don't want to not address our purchasing policy, and have the board waive that purchasing policy, please.
Yeah, they did their diligence, they reached out to other companies, nobody responded back.
Right,
Happened
from my
to,
understanding.
happens a lot, unfortunately.
So
So-
nine, oh, sorry.
No, I was gonna say, for 23.6, I mean, there's, obviously, it does include a dumpster, if there's anything they could take, I don't know if they,
Correct.
I don't know if they've taken up or.
Yeah, yeah, it wouldn't include the
Minor.
dumpster, I
We need
can pull
one,
up the quote, and there was some other things, there was like, needed specific power, but I'm guessing the building's probably suitable for that.
Usually it's 220 for the floor sanders.
Chris, does that help?
Yeah, I don't, is it, I'm not sure it's three-phased.
I don't know if it is.
This
or
is not three-phase, this building's not three-phase, I was
Not on the
understanding.
220 outlet in here, not in the kitchen or anything? for
We
the
got,
stove?
we do have 220 outlets, but I don't know if we have a 220 outlet at,
Hmm.
down.
We can certainly have Dave get you a dumpster.
If not, they might have to use a generator.
Yeah. Yeah, maybe we
Do you
can,
know if you have a 220 outlet over there?
Do not, I'm not qualified for that.
yeah,
It's usually a big box that
Yeah, I
sits
don't
on the
remember
wall with
seeing
an
any in
odd-looking
there.
plug.
There
Was-
might be, because we had the kitchen in there.
was it an electric stove?
Yeah,
Yeah.
there was a,
It was
Did you have an
stove,
electric stove? Yeah,
or was it
I
gas?
think at one time there was,
might be one then.
I mean, there's plenty of room in the panels for it, but just not sure it's three-phase. Okay. What's the desire of the board?
I have a question. So you have 90 days on this, I guess. When do you expect the work to be done, I guess I'm asking.
Well, I think the expectation would be that the beam is repaired before we do this work. So I'm confident with this company, they've been in communication pretty regularly for over a year. So I feel like they would honor this going forward.
Oh, I agree to that. I just, your disruption of your services is,
Oh,
you have to
I'm sorry, I'm
control
sorry.
that, I'm saying with the public,
Yeah,
and I don't know,
no,
how long is
so-
this gonna take?
I think my expectation would be that it'd probably be out of commission for about a week, from start to finish.
summer's actually a better
So
time for
summer's a
that.
better time to do it for sure. Yeah, that's when it gets the least amount of use.
Those pickleball players.
They're outside.
Most of them.
Well, no, they can go outside, right,
Yeah.
exactly.
Outside right now.
Yeah. Except when it rains.
We'll sacrifice John.
So the disposable trust has a current balance of 50,000. I love that all that information is here. Thank you very much. So it would be a reasonable use.
Yeah, Tim, and they've already agreed, and it definitely is a reasonable use. And as long as it's not an investment that's wasted, and again,
No.
if they could see another, 5 more years, that's still a good investment.
Do we need a vote on this?
Yep.
I propose that we accept the $25,000 expense for the Dara Pond floors.
Motion made by Ms. Plansky, do I have a second?
Second, the quote is actually 23.6.
The quote was 23.6, we
And then you
approved up to
wanted
25.
1,500.
You put it
Yeah,
not to
just
exceed
not to
25.
exceed.
Not to exceed 25,000.
I think he should, probably still should do that, just in case you have to get a
Just in case
generator
there's
or
some
something like
unknown.
that you gotta
Mhm.
deal with.
Yeah, it gives you contingency.
Yeah.
Yep.
Obviously.
Yeah.
So I was second by Mr. Leary. Any other discussion? All those in favor, aye?
Aye.
Aye. Motion carries 4-0-0.
Thank you.
Thank you. Now, while you both are in the hot seat. Next is the request for $3,500 from impact fees for Dara Pond Gate.
Yes, so with the, with the addition of a new dock down there and the growth with, basketball and the summer leagues and the courts we have down there and the playground and everything else that goes on down there, we've seen a lot of things of concern, most of which are vehicles traveling down the access road, to park down by the basketball courts, even down onto the beach and parking there at the beach to fish or to launch a boat and just leaving their cars down there at the beach. There's a lot of kids down at the playground, kids playing basketball. We'd hate to see an accident happen. With the addition of the dock, I think that'll only lead to more traffic going down there. So our proposal here is for a double barrier gate, swing arm gate, that would span about 35 feet across the dirt part of the road, past the pavement, just past the dumpster. And that will help keep traffic on this side of the building. We do have that slide gate that's there currently, but that's been almost a nightmare to try and keep people out, to the point where we actually chained it shut at one point and the chain was removed by somebody other than us, and just slid back open. So the reason that we were thinking about putting the gate down at this location here is it still allows for necessary service such as the trash and dumpster, service the portable restroom, and the propane for the heating system at Talent. With the gate here, we would also put some boulders on either side to keep cars from going through it. The current setup with that slide gate when it is closed does not allow sufficient ADA access past down towards Talent or down towards the playground and basketball and beach areas. So this will allow people to be able to pull down, unload a boat, and pull their car back, and then drag the boat down or carry the boat down, and also allow ADA access past there through the openings. And it will help to limit the unauthorized vehicles that go through there. So, the Recreation Commission, the Emergency Services, the Highway Department would all have access to go through there. And our quote was was from Fences Unlimited, who does plenty of work here in town. The total of the quote was $2,994. The Recreation Commission approved up to $3,500 out of impact fees with a vote of 6-0-0. That's what we're looking for.
So this is all part of the same project as the dock, really?
Even without the dock, we've been talking about this because there's just more use.
So this
There's
is
more
just
people
driven
down
the
there.
topic.
The summer clinics with basketball have increased. it's always busy at the playground, and I witnessed, and also, fire department has gone down there and witnessed cars going down there, and that it's dangerous. But it also serves a dual purpose, since the dock was planned, and we know we're going to be putting that in too. That will keep boats, cars from driving down there with trailer beds, or, you know, with their boat to unload. They'll have to unload up above like they do at the John Bryant River access, and carry
down.
your boat in. So we were talking about this before, the whole dock situation, that we needed to do something for the safety of everybody walking down there to Dara. And
Yeah.
So it sounds like it's improving the,
Well,
Improving
the
the
day I
town.
went down there to clean up the beach with the tractor, I think there were a total of 3 cars parked on the
Yeah.
beach with people down there boating, and, you know, with the work that the Conservation Commission is doing to clean up the pond, you know, we don't want fluids from the cars leaking into the water anymore, and, you know,
the
contaminating.
people park down there in
beach and-
general.
Yeah,
Yeah, that
right,
looks like a
there's
good place for a
signs,
party.
there's signs, but they're
yeah.
basically ignored. Paul Kelly was telling us it'll be easier to enforce if we have that gate there, and we do have new signs we had already purchased with the intent of getting them up. And it doesn't impact the emergency access road at all. So however you wanna look at it for impact fees, it can be because of an increase in programming. We also added the handicap swing down there, the permanent chess table, that draws, some older residents down there to play, so it's just even on a weekday now when school's not out, I had 8 cars down by the playground parked and 3 on the beach one day. It makes it really hard to keep the beach maintained too, when they're down there spinning out. But, so it really is for a variety of reasons. But also it's gonna be great to have with the dock, but it was more about the increase of people and programs down there, and that's why we're seeing more people.
I'll say, I was there yesterday for a softball game, and there's kids running around that whole area, and there was a car driving right down to
Yep.
the beach. I sent you a picture of it.
Absolutely.
Yep.
It
So
happens
it's
every time.
definitely a safety issue.
Absolutely.
Every time we're down there.
Yeah, and they don't go slow.
No, even with the
No.
speed bumps there, they
No.
don't go slow, and.
Does
yeah,
anybody
you
in
get-
New Hampshire drive slow? People in New Hampshire drive fast, maybe because it's so far from here to there.
Gotta say anything?
So we need a motion?
Yes,
I'd make a motion to approve this from impact fees,
for the amount of $3,500.
the amount of $3,500.
So a motion made by Ms. Plansky to release $3,500 from impact fees for the purpose of the Dara Pond Gate,
I'll second it.
second by Mr. Leary.
I
Further
would also
discussion?
suggest you put a bigger sign that says no vehicles past this point.
We
Is
have-
that one
we
that's
know
there?
we
It's like
have
this one?
some larger
Yeah, we
ones.
have signage, and Paul Kelly was also talking about actually painting it on the pavement.
I thought of that
Go
too,
down,
yeah,
yeah.
that's a good idea.
Yeah.
And the grant, if we need more, the grant covers signage for
Okay.
anything around that area of the dock. So if we feel we need something more or larger than what we have, we will be able to use that money for signage also.
I
Discussion?
just have just a general question. I'm all for it, that's not it, but we have visitors coming in that play like different baseball leagues or whatever
Yep.
into that?
There's softball
Okay.
tournaments down there, yes.
I was just questioning, I was thinking for some reason of the transfer station where they look for a sticker on your car. When I grew up in a certain town, we had to have a sticker on our car if we could park in the park. But it sounds like we can't if we have visitors coming in.
Yeah,
I
there are
don't think there's anybody
tournaments
really there working to police that, you know, as they.
But it sounds like you can't if you have
as they-
visitors
as
coming
they're-
in.
No.
Yeah,
That was just a general question.
You've done a nice job with the signage down there, keeping the parking for the tournaments all on one side. Haven't heard any grumblings from anybody. A lot of traffic, but not a lot of problems.
It's a busy place.
It is a busy place, it is a busy place.
They've done a good job with the tournaments over the last few years, they just keep growing them, so
Yeah,
it's good to see.
it is good to see, and it's revenue for the town, for rec.
They work hard at it.
Okay, all those in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? All, 400, approved.
Thank you.
Thank you.
see you tomorrow.
Chris has one
You
more.
wanna do the update as well?
Yes, please.
Oh.
What's tomorrow? Breakfast?
So
No
it
breakfast
was,
yet.
No, yeah, we're only doing one this month, it's the
Oh, really?
24th.
Oh, that's right,
Yeah,
I get a night off.
Yeah, you get a night off. You would have been here by yourself.
Glad you asked.
Taco Tuesday.
Where are you going for that
I
now?
don't know, somewhere.
They can't go anywhere.
My wife's watching, I'm sure.
So the rec commission update, I guess, at this point?
Yes, sir. I asked Mr. Burns if he could give the recreation update since it was recreation's turn.
Okay.
Yeah, so, over the past few months, past year, we've completed a number of projects here. We purchased the new roof kit for the heating system at Talent Hall that still has to go up. We're just finding the time to do that. We put in the new camera system at Talent Hall. We re-roofed the shed, that sits to the right of Talent Hall. I think we got that work. We did a beach cleanup, playground cleanup down at Darien, cleaned up the basketball courts, spread new mulch around the playground. Thank you to Tim Sturr for that. We had the engineering firm inspect the floor and provide the report on the conditions for the framing there at Talent Hall. Thank you to the LPA for assisting with that. We cleaned up the courts, installed new tennis nets at Sawmill. We installed new signage at all the parks to notify the rec committee here if there are any issues that residents see or notice. Held the fishing derby in conjunction with the Conservation Commission down at Park. And now for some upcoming projects, the refinishing of the floor, the new dock, we've talked about them, the gate, and we're also looking to install concrete pads for all the portable restrooms so that they don't get tipped over as easily. And there's probably more to come, but that's all I had off the top of my head.
Thanks.
We had a donation of new trail signs down at Parker Park with the expansion of conservation put in the bridges. It expanded that area, so, a gentleman who has also made other signs in the Litchfield forest and stuff, also made signs, for those trails, so it's easy to follow. And that was a donation.
And you get new rec t-shirts.
Yep.
Yeah.
At some point, yep.
Are they gonna be bright yellow like the conservation?
No, we don't want to clash. We wanna be
Give me
right.
orange
I
instead.
felt very left out at the fishing derby without it.
We're thinking red.
Yeah.
Okay.
Red for recreation.
Oh, nice. Okay.
Oh, and Spirit of Litchfield's also sponsoring the car show,
Yes.
4th of July car show again this year.
Yeah, and they did the Easter egg hunt too.
Yeah, and the parade.
We also have the parade too, the
Yep.
parade also, yeah. Anything else?
That's it.
Thank you for everything you guys do. Much appreciated.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Busy board. Thank you. Thank you to all the people on your board.
Thank
Thanks
you.
for doing my selectman report for me.
Yeah.
You're welcome.
This time.
All right, in the ideal world, I guess, let's continue changing the agenda up.
Okay.
Just considering the chief is here, and I don't want to see the chief be here much longer tonight. Would you like to come forward and we'll cover the topic of police vehicle discussion?
Sure.
Welcome, chief.
Thank you. What are we talking about?
Favorite subject, cruisers.
Cruisers. So, in the micro world of cruisers right now, Car 7, which is the one that I got in two different estimates from Quirk, for one for 11,000, one for 13 something. We brought it to Edwards, and he believes he has a fix that might work that he's done to other cars that were in similar situations that will be much cheaper. So it looks like, at least for now, we have a stay of execution on that car. Looking bigger picture, I reached out to, and I know this is a bad word, but I'm only going to use it once, a company that does municipal leases. And I know some people don't like that term because they think of a lease as you don't own the car. A municipal lease is different in that it is really just a loan. It's not a lease like a traditional person would get a lease. It's just a financing mechanism that is truly a loan. You make 5 years of payments. At the end of the 5 years, you own the car. And then you do with it what you will. So looking at that, and just to compare apples to apples, I priced out all 6 frontline cruisers and compared it to going back to the 2-1-2-1 system that we were on before. And under the 2121 system, that averages out at the current cost, today's car, and this is, an approximation, I haven't talked to IT yet to make sure that my numbers for him are correct. That works out to be about $108,000 a year. Through this loan program, in order to replace all 6 cars right now today, it averages out to be just under $95,000 a year. So we're 95. So we're talking about it's actually almost a $13,000 savings year to year. Now, obviously, there's going to be interest, so you do wind up paying for interest. But it's still, it flattens out the highs and lows rather than going for, 100 and whatever it is, 121,000 this year and 70,000, or no, more than that. 130,000 one year and then 70,000 the next year. It's just $95,000 a year every year. It flattens that out. All the cars are under warranty for the majority of their lives, and then when it's time for them to go, you repeat the cycle.
So it's 95K a year?
95K a year. Again, that's an estimate,
Without
but that's based on my estimate, which again, I estimated where IT numbers were going to be, and I looked at the prices for the latest quotes that I got for cars. So, could it be a little bit more than that? Absolutely. But it's still, I mean, we're talking, like I said, we're talking about a $13,000 savings rather than going 2-1, 2-1, 2-1. And going 2-1, 2-1, 2-1, and as old and as bad as the fleet is, we would be playing this catch-up game that we've been trying to do, where all the cars are well over 100,000 miles. I know I've said this before in previous meetings, where my average frontline cruiser last year, not the detail cars, not the administrative cars, was down for over 7 weeks. And that's left us without cars. It's left us negative cars on certain days. And that just can't be. So that eliminates all those problems. And then, not to mention the cost I've overrun my repair budget. I think last year was more than double what was budgeted. In fact, I know it was more than double what was budgeted. And this year, I'm on pace to do that again.
And what is your repair budget?
18.5.
And was 18.5 last year and you
It was
were-
18.5 last year,
so
and
you
more than
did more
doubled
like
it.
36.
Yeah, more.
And we would eliminate that with the municipal leases.
Well, I wouldn't be able to eliminate it completely because there's tires and brakes and oil changes and
But it
things
would
like
be a
that.
lot less than
But it'd be
36.
much, much less, right? And then the car would be under warranty for a majority of that time. Not the entire time, but I wouldn't have cars like right now. My highest car has 140,000 miles. Here it is.
I wish you could give the hours a runtime.
Yeah, we might be able to pull that.
I think people, when they hear 140,000 miles, go, that car's got a lot of life in it, but
Right. But again, we see by as often as they're down. Like I said, my average car was down over 7 weeks last year.
there's
And
3 of them there this weekend.
I can't, I can't go to Hudson PD and say, can I have a car for 2 months?
So Chief, how would you start this? Because sounds very similar to what happened back in 2010 or so, when we had to buy 4 new cars off the bat. We basically loaned it.
Right.
It's the same, this is the same program, same company that we did the communications tower on.
Yes, this
So
is
it's
tax
really,
exempt
yeah, so it's not really a lease,
It's a loan.
you're borrowing money and paying it back.
Right.
But you're talking about the payment schedule would be consistent as we're getting to the end, we're rotating cars out, and it's gonna continue to be in the same price going forward.
Right.
So what would the difference be in interest to do it that way than to take a loan?
That's what this is.
It's a loan.
Right, but it's not a regular loan.
It's a regular loan.
Okay,
People get confused because they call it a municipal lease, but
Right.
it's a loan.
okay,
And the price, this price is based on a 4.9% interest rate.
4.9%, okay.
And that covers everything. That covers the upfit, the lights, the cage, the IT stuff,
It
all of
does.
those things. And we're probably high because there's probably some things that can be transferred.
Well, you only have to, yeah, it's
But-
like every 4 to 5 years, you gotta replace equipment in the car.
Right, so,
It may be a little higher than the first will. Cause everything in the cars today, everything in the cruisers today, for the most part, can come over
right.
for the first round. It'll be 5 years from now, you gotta replace something.
Well, no, because a lot of the stuff, IT maybe, but not my stuff, because we're
No
going,
cages,
we're
lights,
transitioning from the Tahoes to the Fords.
My stuff's cheap compared to your stuff.
It's a headache, it's a major headache, it's been a major headache, since
So,
the cruisers, the two
In answer
cruisers
to your
failed this year.
question on how we've done it in the past, so both the highway vehicles came from this exact company.
Yeah.
Tax exempt. Both were done the same way. They have to be, because it's a municipal lease, using word lease lightly, they have to be,
Municipal loan.
they have to be approved by town meeting. They were put on town meeting with the first payment coming from unassigned and the next payments being in the budget under, that's how both of those were done.
So, this is nothing we can do right now, this is something that has to go on.
Nothing.
Right, I'm just throwing out, giving
Yeah,
you the
yeah.
big picture and,
Budget, for budget.
and my plan to move forward and
But what, devil's advocate, you get the 2 cars that are down, one car that's down now repaired. What's the next car? Cause right now you have 12, 8, and 13 are running ragged right now. 12 is the oldest of the 2, of the 3. You got 7, you got 5 back there that just came back online, yeah, and we're getting ready for it, but then you got 4, which is even older than 12.
right.
I just feel like you're gonna be always behind 3 cars. Nothing we can do, but the board needs to understand that they're always gonna be behind a couple cars until we get to a resolution to this problem.
Right, and that's why I think this is a good resolution, because for less than $100,000 a year, to, you know, in order to just buy 2 cars this year, which would still leave us in the lurch next year.
$20,000.
It'd be right, it'd be 130 or better realistically by the time they're done. So this gets us out for under, and that's replacing all 6, and I'm not even advocating that that's what I'm gonna do. I'll sit down and look at it, but even with that, I did rough math and I haven't totally redone my 2026 proposed budget, big budget. But even with that, you know, if we were to put that in there, my budget for 2026 would go down 3%.
Yeah, I mean, I guess why wouldn't you? Because if you only did 2, you're gonna end up getting there's gonna be a spike again versus being consistently across.
Right, and that would be my plan.
I like it,
I have questions too.
Yeah.
I like it, cause it's
I
gonna
think
reduce
as,
repair.
You know, as the leadership, you know, as the department heads have been talking, and we've been talking about this for the whole length of the time I have been here. And I think we are all in agreement that the town needs a capital expense trust fund. We need a fund that has money in it, because the next discussion is your highway vehicles. And now we are down highway vehicles as well. And there has to be some capital expense fund where, when we are in situations that they're, cause this will, you know, it's bad enough that it affects public safety, but now you're gonna affect plowing with highway trucks being down. We need somewhere where the board is authorized to go for emergencies
That was
to
my
replace
question.
vehicles.
I don't wanna jump ahead, and I do need clarification for myself. This fund balance policy we're gonna be looking at later. You have vocabulary on the front page for the different funds, but on the back you call it undesignated funds. That actually says, and again, it's gonna be the no versus no, no means no, use up your funds, you know.
I thought we
But
could
there's
do
something here that says the Board of Selectmen may appropriate undesignated fund balance for emergency purposes as deemed necessary, even if such decrease is below the designated percentage, but I don't know if that applies here. And it has to apply to RSA 32, which I have not looked up.
It's a great question. So I reached out to legal counsel. There is a process where the board can apply to the Department of Revenue
For a special meeting.
and get a special meeting.
in the case where this has already gone to warrant,
Okay, so we spoke about this.
they, legal is pretty sure that the answer from the DRA would be no.
Gotcha, okay,
Um,
that's RSA
the
30.
other side of that conversation was, and this is not giving any opinion here, that no means no only applies, this is from legal, only applies to warrant articles. So, the warrant article was, one warrant article for one car was defeated. And so that's where she feels that the, application to the DRA for another special meeting would be denied. That does not, under legal's opinion, prohibit the Board of Selectmen from spending out of the budget. No means no on a warrant article does not apply to the budget per legal.
So where was that legal opinion last year when we, at the end of the year, we thought we couldn't do it because we had a no means no? We couldn't use 2024 appropriated dollars because they already said no to the warrant.
And that's why I'm bringing up this, because this is a different legal opinion than I have been accustomed to in the past. And like I said, I offer no opinion on that.
I
Same
wish we-
legal
I wish-
company, same,
Yeah.
same lawyer?
Same same agency, yes.
I guess, yeah, I'm a little disappointed, cause I mean, last year we were at the end of the year going, we had money in the budget left because of other shortcomings and other, hires we didn't do. We could have bought the car. And we didn't do that because
My-
we said no means no.
My concern, and
mean,
I
still-
did specify this to legal, is, my concern is what the residents feel no means no, and I think
Yep.
we have commonly interpreted no means no across the board.
Right.
And I wouldn't want to affect
And I
how
think
the
that's,
residents feel about it.
I think that's why we deferred to it, right?
Yeah.
I
Yeah.
think push come to shove, we may have had to make some different decisions, maybe, but I guess with that opinion, maybe we would have done something differently, because we were at the same problem at the end of last year.
Agreed.
And at that point, there would have been no impact.
Mm-hmm.
And now we're, 2 cars down because we had a car in the budget that failed, because we're in default, and we had a warrant fail.
With
even
no
though-
money in the budget to do anything.
Correct.
Right.
So we're kind of at a rock and a hard place, but, I mean, I personally like the idea of using a financing vehicle, a financing program to keep the costs consistent.
And to
And
keep
it's-
the expenses of repairs considerably down.
Well, right, we won't be replacing engines and everything else, so you'll have the standard wear and tear, and you go through tires every year, because
Yeah, but that's a minimal amount compared
Right,
to
compared to-
$36,000, and that to me is like why I lease, is to have a new car, to have a car that doesn't need repairs, that has a car that has good gas mileage, cause it's not, 100,000 miles on it. I don't know, I kinda think it's a great approach for next year's budget. Would that go in as a warrant article?
Yeah, we'll have to.
Yes.
Okay.
Let's just limp along until we can't.
There's no way we can't, I
Literally.
mean, we have to.
Yeah, I mean, I think we've asked, find creative ways to do it, and I think if it shows a savings. I think the budget committee would actually be appreciative of the fact that it is showing a savings. So, I think we should, I think it should be on the warrant. I think we should double and, make sure people understand what we're gonna try to do.
So then we'd own them after 5 years, so some of that money would go away, the expenses would start to
No,
go
it
up.
would be, you'd be rotating them out again.
Right, and then you rotate it into the next, you might keep the best, so you'd keep the best of those for detail cars, trade in whatever's left over.
Yep.
And then, as
Do
the
maybe
town
2 or
administrator was
3.
talking about, having a revolving fund for an emergency, just like I would do with whatever cars we get rid of this go around. Well, obviously, that wouldn't be my decision, but, I'm just thinking off the top of my head that I would wanna put that money whatever the trading value is into the revolving fund, so there's a contingency, and I don't care if it helps out highway, if it helps out the fire department, great, but at least there's a mechanism for all of us, and that will be a way to offset some of those costs.
Agreed. Is there, Bob, any, history-wise, was there any reason why we never created a revolving fund to this point? Or cap for vehicle maintenance or vehicle replacement?
No, because it used to always be in the budget.
Yeah. I guess, I mean, we have to go forward the warrant to resolve the PD issue, that's clear. But then we need to think about, like, a warrant article for revolving fund, how are we gonna fund that? And how much money can we put up into it initially? Cause it'll probably take a couple of years before it grows to a point where it actually can be something that we actually can rely on.
Agreed, and we won't know the real balance and health of the, unassigned until tax setting time. We have to be a little bit cautious because we are in default, so we most likely will not have as much year-end funds to replace any money from the unassigned that we take out for warrant articles next March. So there's a lot more information that we need at this point for that warrant article.
I think there's a really good case to be made for this, that could be made in a warrant article, and that could be made at budget, could be made at town meeting. Why the approach has changed, I think it, and with the stress for what you are reducing down, and it would be less than that likely. I think it's a good approach. I think it's a better approach than the buying a brand new vehicle and outfitting it and then waiting for it. I mean, we still don't have the one, do we?
We have the car, but we're still
It's
probably
not outfitted, it's
a
not
month or
ready.
2 months out,
Yeah,
we're
it's
probably
still
2
not
months
ready to
out
use. So
realistically
we'd
by
be
the time it's done.
we'd be buying vehicles that were ready to go the day we got them,
They would go through the same process.
would they?
Yeah,
Okay.
so I mean, that is what it is, it doesn't matter how we finance it, whether we buy it cash, whether we,
Okay.
that's just is what it is.
Yeah, they have to go in a pipeline, and it just takes forever to get all the parts, and then build them out.
And when I did got the quotes last year for the upfitting of the cars, there were, everywhere I went, whether it was the big guys down in Massachusetts who do hundreds of cars a year, if not more, their timeline was no different than the local guy here, who,
Okay.
yeah,
The local
they're all
guy
the
who's
same,
helping us out all the time.
they're all 4 months out or better, and realistically, it's the or better for a lot of them. Or worse, I guess, depending on how you look at it.
Okay. Anything else for the chief?
Thank you very much.
Appreciate the ideas. What's that?
We have one more,
Yep.
Police building.
the building,
Oh, you want me to skip that farther in the agenda?
yes, please.
All right, police building. We're gonna move to capital improvement discussion, police building. I'm gonna skip all over this agenda. Why did I even create it? Go ahead.
Thank you, by the way.
Just do the policies at the end.
We're not
That
gonna, we'll
boy.
wait till the end, yeah.
So I'm just looking to get some direction from the board. Obviously, the building did not pass last year, earlier this year. So we have to, in my opinion, figure out where we're going. And I don't know if, to the board, I don't know if that means having another analysis done, having another architect look at it, regrouping ourselves and figuring out exactly what we want, on the town hall side and on the police department side, because to me, those two projects have to be linked. And then figure out how to move forward.
I mean, this is my opinion, and pains me to say it this way. I don't think we're prepared to come forward again.
I agree.
Not next year.
Not
I
next
agree.
year. I think there's other pressures in the system right now that are gonna cause challenges next year, no matter what we look at. And I think the priorities right now is getting our cruiser fleet back in line, and AL miscellaneous things that improve the safety of the officers, and we have to deal with that problem first.
But if there's things that you can do that would make it easier for you to live in that area for another 2 years, So maybe we can put some of those forward, or come up with some of those ideas. That would be, because I understand that you're cramped, I get it, I've seen it, I've been in there, it was never planned correctly to start with.
So-
So maybe come up with some better ideas of how to move the things that you have in there around. I know that there was some propositions put forward to you that aren't what you're looking for, but might be able to help.
So I think anything we can do to improve the building and it can be reused, we should consider. But I think the plan, I think the idea going forward would be, we realize we can't bring forward, we're not ready for a building again. I think we heard enough feedback that we haven't done our analysis correctly. We haven't considered the town hall's needs as part of this project. It sounds like we should be coming forward with a warrant that says, engineering study on improving the town hall to facilitate both town employees and police department and make that decision what the right path forward is. But again, it's engineering dollars we have to spend, that we've spent several times over already, but I think at this point we have to do that. I think we've heard that enough from folks. I think, Bob, you've heard that too, and I think at this point, that's probably our best path forward. I don't think anyone thinks it's going away. Everyone I talk to knows it's not going away.
Right.
But no one's gonna expect it next year, and I don't think we should bring it forward next year.
I agree,
And I agree too, and if I was sitting outside of the table, that's what I would've said, that's what I thought coming in here.
yeah.
So I just want to make sure we're not at this time next year saying, what are we gonna do? I'd like to have some direction, not that I need an answer tonight, but have some direction on where we're going. And I just wanted to make sure that formally I'm asking you to, give me some direction on where we're going.
I think we need to have that conversation before budget, because, again, we have to fund, anything we do, we have to fund it, we have to fund an engineering to do it for us. Some company to come in and either do a space needs analysis with a combination of a, engineering design of what it would look like, and then whatever that process would be, we gotta put some money aside to do that. So it ain't gonna be us in the back, but paper napkin trying to figure it out. Have someone come and take a look at all the departments in this building. What can we do to this building, and then what are our options? What's the right options, the best bang for the buck?
And do you wanna get a facilities committee together?
I think once the warrant passes, we'd probably do that, yeah.
You don't wanna do it beforehand, so that, the building facilities for the school has been together for years and years, trying to come up
Good
with
approach,
ideas.
too.
If you do it beforehand, then it can have some people in the community working towards what they think that the community will take. I know that when the school is working towards their facility, reconciliation or repairs or what they need to do, they're looking at what they can pass. And that's gonna have to be what we do with the police building as well.
So what is the board's thoughts on a subcommittee of this board to do the analysis, to at least kick off what it would look like, but what the requirements are, to find a company, get the bids out for a company, and then bring that forward for a warrant?
So if I could just bring up one point. So when the chief and I were speaking, there was a couple reasons for this being on your agenda tonight. Number one, it really needs to be submitted to CIP again. Again, submitted to CIP does not mean there is a warrant coming.
Right.
It needs to be submitted to CIP to remain on the CIP plan so that we can collect impact fees. CIP plan is directly related to the impact fees. So if we're not putting it in the 2026 column, where would you like it? 2027, 2028? I think that's kind of what we're asking, so that the chief can go back and prepare his documents for the capital improvement committee, which are due soon.
So, if the impact fees are a 5-year cycle, and we're at the end of the 5-year cycle, right? Is it 2026 the new year?
2026 is a new year.
So you have to put it in for 2020, okay.
So he can put it in, we know it's not going for 2026, so
Put it
maybe
in
the
for 20
suggestion is to go for 2027.
Yeah.
And when would you like the figures, you know, the amount of money that he would be requesting, when would you like that refreshed? I mean, if we're not doing it for 2026, I don't think there's any particular rush
Right.
for that.
Well,
Then
we can
maybe you
still-
could put your committee together and work next year, come up with a new number for next year's CIP.
I think
Couldn't we
it's
just
Submission.
hold the same number we already had?
You
Hold
could.
it, Because we,
It's
until we,
holding.
Yeah.
just hold it, it's
Yeah.
really being
Hold its
used for
spa-
for
hold its
the impact
space.
calculation.
It's already there.
But don't make Dan do anything else until he's got,
Right, so just
You
submit,
just
basically
submit the
submit what
same
I submitted
thing.
last year,
Yes.
again this year, to CAP, but then not put it to warrant.
Right.
No, it won't go to warrant, it's just,
Right,
it's gotta be there for the
Just the
calculation
CIP so
for
that they
impact
have,
only,
so we
yeah.
have something.
we have a
to-
space holder for it.
But he can say for 2027, because the
say right
CIP plan that we're working on now is 2026 to 2031.
Right? 5 years.
So he could put it in, he could ask them to slot it in 2027, which means no one would expect a warrant in
Yeah,
2026.
we're not gonna, like I said, not ready 2026, so,
Would you
yeah.
be ready in 2027 if you had a
Maybe
whole
not.
committee
Maybe
put
not,
together?
but
and-
he could move it next summer, next,
All right, I just.
They'll have to
see it
submit again
happening
anyway.
till 2028.
Right.
have to submit every year anyways.
Yeah, so
2028 would be more.
yeah, I would submit what we have now, keep it in the books, target 2027, and it's gonna be TBD once we figure out the next steps.
How do you feel about running a building facility committee for a station?
Yeah, I wasn't part of the school, so I didn't see exactly how that worked. But,
You can make yours work the way you want it to work. You can have.
right, so
people
that's,
do it.
right, I would definitely want to be able to control,
Yeah,
you know, have control of how it works.
because you're talking about now evaluating town hall. Actually, if you did a building facility for the town, you could put in the highway department buildings as well. The old fire department. The schools is for all of the schools. Everything that needs to be done in the schools. It's the roof that's going on Campbell. It's the, you know, repairs to the, parking lot that needs to be done.
So, I think I'd wanna speak to the road agent, because I think there are some conversations that we have not had yet.
Okay. Let's keep the focus
Small.
narrowed.
Small, okay.
Let's keep the immediate need right now is town hall, police department, town hall. So I guess, I mean, it'd be an offshoot of the board, but under the leadership of the chief. I would assume, you know, membership is some town leaders that have vested in, you know, stakeholders. And, you know, maybe a rep from the community, maybe one rep from the community,
I'd add more than one.
two reps, I guess, from the community.
And probably what I'd want to do, and not to get ahead of myself, is maybe look at other police chiefs. I know we have retired police chiefs who live in town. So I just have somebody else who's been on the inside and understands.
Yeah, especially around guiding.
the
what we
needs
can do in
and-
the building, yeah.
And ways of
Great
working
idea.
things, that, how did they approach it, how did they?
Right.
Yeah, always good to have other information.
So do we wanna make a decision tonight on the makeup of this committee, or just,
Not that it needs to be incorporated into this, but I don't wanna get into the situation, again, where the chief has a good plan and we don't have a plan for this building. Because I think that significantly hurt us.
He's talking
And
about adding that to it.
Leadership, well, I think the plan for this building is a different group.
no, I'm thinking it's the same group, but
Same
the
group.
stakeholders are part of this discussion.
Yep.
Cause I think at the end of the day, either we have to exclude the police departments living in this building period at all and adding as an exclusion. But once
Which
we
would-
say we're
should
gonna
solve your
vacate, I think
problems.
the same party can help do the building. So I was thinking the chief, yourself potentially as a stakeholder, maybe another department head in the building. what, you know, needs in the building, they can understand what this building is only from a town hall perspective. And the police and his experts will focus on the policing side of it, work together, come up with a firm plan on what would happen to this building if we were to expand it, or grow it, or change it. Or here's the other option, then this is what happens if we do this is what happens to this building. Taking in the town hall needs would be the priority at that point, so.
Two separate
So the
plans, you
only-
wanna decouple it for the
It
voting
would be,
though, right?
but it would be together for
Well, the only reason I say that is
evaluation.
I think there are major players that need to be involved in how this building is used. One being our town clerk and one being our finance director. I think having those two absolutely included in the conversation on what happens to this building is important.
Of course.
We did come up with a plan. I think we were a little, felt a little slighted that it wasn't spoken about, because it is important and we do know the limitations, that we feel every single day, as well as the police station does.
I don't wanna see a committee that's as large as the FIC. I think
No.
it doesn't work very well.
No,
I think it's a lot of great voices, yes. I think there's an opportunity to invite public for feedback and comment and kind of discussion, show. But I think when you look at a working group, it needs to be at least agile enough to work together and coordinate together. So thought would be, I think it's fine, maybe it's 3 town people, 3 town employees that are representing the town,
A selectman's rep,
and selectmen's rep,
we can
Sure.
alternate that if you want, but.
sure. And then, you know, the chief and his counterpart, and then maybe, you know, an external person that's familiar in policing from a station perspective, and then 2 resident reps. And unfortunately, I think you also need to have IT part of it, but that's where the conflict comes from me.
But does it?
Well, just if there's a selectman's rep, I'm just saying, I don't think there needs to be a selectman's rep per se.
I don't
Well, I
wanna
think
see
it
this
supports
committee go way out here and then present it to the selectmen and have the selectmen go, oh no, that's not what we thought at all. If we have a selectman's rep there,
Sure.
then we can report back
Yeah.
and we're not wasting their time.
I mean, in the construction of the fire department, this did a lot of the internal stuff, so I would be part of the discussion, not actively being an active member. But I'm happy to be the rep too, if the board wants that, or if somebody else wants to do it, that's fine too, I can just step aside and just do my part and walk away from the other. Just keep focused on my areas.
getting into, 91A, my favorite conversation. Is this an official committee or is this a working group? Working groups do not require public meetings with minutes. A subcommittee definitely requires
So,
minutes.
when we did
agendas.
the subcommittee for the, recycling center conversion. I'm trying to think, we didn't have public meetings, but we came back and reported to the board on a regular basis.
I would think that's the way to go. The way you've structured this here, there is no quorum of any official members. If there was a quorum of the board, that kicks it to a public meeting automatically. Since you have no quorum, this is mostly staff and community members, it could certainly be a working group
I like that.
and report back.
That's how the fire department did, that's how the
I
fire
like
department
that.
did too.
I like it too.
Yeah, and we just gotta make sure that we have, set check-ins of what's going on and how they're progressing. So,
Chief,
got it?
you're elected.
Does that make sense from a configuration perspective, Bob?
I'd like to see more citizens on there, more than 2, because they're the ones we're gonna have to ultimately pitch it to.
And will or won't.
Mhm.
Or in will or won't.
I-
So,
I think you gotta put a number on it, you can't, the
I
problem
wouldn't
would
have
be,
an unlimited amount, no, FIC is too big.
that's my concern, is FIC is way too
it's
big.
wicked hard to get anything done in that board, for sure.
If I may, Mr.
More
Chairman.
police.
So if we get 2 regular town reps and then a local chief who's also a town rep, if you will, even though they have law enforcement experience. Anybody from the board lives in town. Most of the town employees live in town. I mean, it's gonna be, 90% town employees just as it sits. Or town residents, I mean.
So maybe just say it's 3, 3, and 3, right? So 3 represent 3 non-town people, residents obviously, but, and then 3 stakeholders from the town hall side, and you have 3 on your side, whether it's your guest chief who's helping you
So
out.
that's 9, and then a rep is 10.
How busy are you, Ron?
At your leisure.
I hear you have free time now.
Yes, I do.
Okay,
Okay,
So
so
do we-
total 10.
Working group.
Yep, working group.
do we need a vote on that?
That's a good idea.
Do we need a vote on that? It's a working group. Do we need to create a vote to do it? Why not, right? I'll make a motion that we create a working group with the task of identifying the solution to the town hall and police department issues from a building perspective. And to come forth with a plan at some date certain, which we'll decide later on.
Talk about it next month. Well, you wanna get it started.
Yeah.
I'll second that.
Motion seconded. Any other discussion?
SIP, we're gonna add the town hall to it? Sorry, or do we have to add the town hall to the SIP? Just asking.
It'll have to come forward as it's a municipal thing. It's already in the plan, isn't it? Cause it's part of the municipal impact fees.
I'm not
Probably
sure
not.
of the vision of
So-
the town hall yet, if it's gonna be a $5 million project or $1 million, I don't know.
Ooh, if
So,
it's-
I don't know.
for that.
That's what I'm afraid, we gotta make sure, maybe, they get decoupled when we go to vote, right? But one has a dependency on the other, right?
I would still be very surprised if renovations of town hall, was that expensive.
Shouldn't be.
Renovations of town hall in the, event that a police building is approved is allowed by impact fees by Mr. Mayberry's report.
All right, all those in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Motion carries 4-0-0. All right, thank you, chief.
Thank you.
Thanks, Chief.
All right, now I gotta regroup and figure out where I left off this
Would
agenda.
you like to go with highway?
Yeah, highway
Yeah, we might as well do the
Down here.
highway. We're on the topic of cars and spending money.
I kinda choose out the middle, so then we can do the two ends.
Highway vehicle discussion right after, the police vehicle discussion, is that Mr. Brown has let us know there's a 2003 Ford F-350 that is now off the road.
Is that the old fire truck? 2003 one?
It was a runaround truck, it did plow,
Yeah, but it's red and white, right?
yes.
I think it's the old fire utility truck. I think.
The floorboards are rotten, the rockers are rotten, the quarter panels, the oil pan, and the transmission line. The cost to repair greatly outweighs the worth of the truck. So, we would ask the board for permission to public auction the pieces of that truck off. And we'd use the same public auction that we did on the police vehicles and the, fire
The
vehicle
old,
that
the
we
old
did last
building
year.
inspector one too, yeah.
And then we did sign a purchase order because it's in the amount the town administrator and the road agent to repair 2019 Chevy 550. The transmission went that required $6,158.82. Again, this is from significant rotting. those transmission lines rotted out. So that's back to the comment I made just a little while ago, that the road agent and I were having conversations, talking to different people on how we prevent this from happening to vehicles in the future, because this 2019 that had the rotted out transmission lines only had 8,598 miles.
And it's not stored in a garage, obviously.
None of them are. So,
That's not,
And they're used in the winter.
and they do wash them, they do, their very best to get any salt, and debris off of them. We do intend to go out for another Clean Fleets grant, at the end of the year when the next cycle comes through, to replace an international, but unfortunately, they're gonna be down one F-350 plow, so.
okay.
On the capital improvement discussion, the road agent wanted, the board's feedback on he would like to submit, an item for the CIP plan to go for an additional 200,000 in paving. So, right now, there is no taxes that pay for paving. The money that comes from paving comes from the state highway,
And the town used to match it.
and the town used to match it.
Okay, stop
And
there.
that was stopped, and unfortunately, as we look at the paving plan, it's going to push us out year after year after year, and we're gonna get significantly behind.
So we used to do what, $200,000, I think it was, we would match?
200 and then 200 from the highway. And so that's what he would like to submit for a plan. Perhaps it doesn't make it to warrant or into the budget, but at least it's in the CIP plan that.
I'm surprised we hadn't returned it, to be honest with you. Especially with the, well, yeah,
Why did it stop?
COVID. That's my
That'll do
recollection.
Yes.
COVID. I mean, at that time, we couldn't get supplies, couldn't do it, so they stopped it, just never restored it, I guess.
Well, we went to a zero-based budget too. No unnecessary spending, so we pulled things out.
From COVID, yeah. Yeah, I don't think anyone knew no one knew how long COVID was gonna last, or what the impact was, so.
There are RSAs on the road conditions, I'm assuming, I don't know.
So the road agent gets the road conditions from NRPC. And he has that plan out for, 5 years at a time. So every year he submits that to CIP, but we have never asked for an additional 200, he's just left it at the 200 coming from the highway funds from the state. This year he would actually put another 200,000. So it would be 400,000 that the plan would be calculating.
I was asking more of legally, does he have to keep the roads to a certain condition? I'm assuming, no? Is,
I mean,
is there? No.
again,
I'm surprised.
That is a local decision. That's the governing body decides
you
on.
all listen to pothole complaints all day, we can take care of that. Can we get a copy of, can he share the report on all our roads, where they are in the program? As far as what's up, what's coming up, what the condition, the score of the condition, I think I've seen it in the past, I know, I think we've got it in the past. Just to have it so it's a reference. But I think I personally think it's a good idea to bring it back if we can, so. Okay, anything else on highway?
Nope, that was it.
Alright, great, so now, are we all in agreement, we'll bring the policy reviews to the end? No, let's go back to policy reviews. So first up, it was fraud policy and the fund balance policy, and I believe that was, when I was out, that was to be approved, but I think you guys, pushed it, so we're back to it again. Does Kleiner like to start, I guess?
Sure. So we'll start with the fund balance policy. We looked at our fund balance policy and we compared it to that of towns of a similar size. I also spoke, with the DRA. We felt strongly that this policy is acceptable the way it is. We did try to make two clarifying remarks, which are in red. The non-spendable fund balance, that's amounts that are not in spendable forms, like your inventory, or your prepaid expenses. And then down below, unassigned amounts are available for any legal purpose. That is just to clarify that, yes, there are many legal purposes that you can use unassigned for. Anything that's approved at town meeting is a legal expense, and then called paying down the tax rate, that's also a legal purpose.
There's also a paragraph that was added on the second page.
The current best practices by the Government Finances Officers Association. So that is different, than what is recommended by the New Hampshire Department of Revenue. The New Hampshire Department of Revenue is 5 to 17%. We are right in the middle of that. 8 to 12 is our local, and we still recommend that. The GFOA is a little bit more calculating, and they say regardless of the size of the town, you should maintain an unrestricted, which is generally what your unassigned is, no less than 2 months of your regular general fund operating expenditures.
Which 2 months?
That's the difficulty with using that method, right? Because for us,
School payments, a big one.
right, are you talking July and August? That's very different than December and January. It's,
So,
we wanted to include both, because both are very current best practices in the municipal sphere, but we still recommend our local of 8 to 12%. It wouldn't be that far off if you did go by the GFOA, if you were looking at our July and August. So we kind of looked at July and August, and you'd still be at that 8 to 12. It's really 8 to 10%.
but if we're not gonna follow it, why add the extra words?
We can take it out.
This-
Totally
Like, it's not
acceptable.
clear at that point. I mean, I think it's clear that this board made a decision, 8 to 12 is the number we wanna stick on, and it's well in range with DRA and everybody else says we should do.
Don't think the DRA was in there at all. And so we should at least add the DRA if you don't want to add the GFOA.
So, reference it, yeah.
So you're saying they recommend this, but the Board of Selectmen says this,
Yeah,
which I like.
Which is right in the middle of their range.
But they're 17%, we're at 12%, for the high limit.
I don't know of another municipality who said.
What are we currently today? I know you went over this a few months ago. Where are we now?
11 or something like that? Or
We
10
are
now?
11.3.
Oh, healthy.
I don't know how, obviously, my feedback was, I just think the two paragraphs kinda confuse it. I have no problem at the end of our, where it says minimum thresholds, and just make a comment that, DRA recommends, 5 to 17 or something like that, it's like one line sentence to say. Or however you wanna feed it.
Would you
into-
like the recommended range after minimum threshold in the paragraph below?
Yeah, that's what I would think. But obviously, that'd be also, any other feedback. I just don't think the two paragraphs, they kinda conflict with each other, so.
I agree, it was confusing when I first read it, but I do like that we at least reference the recommendation and then what we said as a threshold. Cause they can revisit, we're supposed to look at these once a year.
Yeah.
So we can look at it again. I know some of these are a
bite at the
little
apple
old.
every year. I mean, that's the only, that's, other than the other two changes are fine, I think that's just clean up, in my opinion.
And then Kim would probably look at the 5 and 17 next year and see if the law changed, right?
Yes.
'Cause it might change
It
again, right?
hasn't changed for a number of years, but we would look.
And what we carry in here, it affects our bond rates and everything, right? It does.
Can, I guess, yeah.
It does.
More apt in a city that has its own, when you're going through the bond bank, they do look at it, but not as much as if you are out on the market. Like a city has its own bond council and.
I was always of the impression that the more money we had in the fund balance,
Better your
the
interest
better
rates
off we
are.
were, so.
That's what I thought, no?
Me too.
But I think we also needed to, we have the flows, we have to have that buffer too, so.
Yep.
I always love when I see that school bill.
Right, so if we hadn't have had the healthy unassigned that we had, we would have been this past December in a very bad place.
So undesignated fund balance versus unassigned fund balance?
So,
Because the line under it, it says excess unassigned fund balance, but there's no definition of that on the prior page, unless the words are used interchangeably.
yeah, so that generally gets people, a little confused.
Just let me know what's
So,
up. Educate me.
generally, what you see is an unassigned fund balance, right? It's not assigned, it's, when you start talking about undesignated, it's, you have a fund balance, it's not unassigned, but it's not designated to a specific purpose.
Can we put the definition on the other side, under the other definitions?
We can.
Thank you. Are you all right with that? Is everyone okay?
So it's like you're designating, if you were going to say, we are in our policy, we are going to always use $300,000 to pay down the tax rate. It's not unassigned. You've made a policy decision, but it's not designated to a specific purpose, like a trust fund.
What do we have for a balance in there now, roughly, do you know?
And then that part after that is the one that speaks to the emergencies.
Do we have an undesignated fund balance today? We don't have anything in it?
Yours is all in unassigned.
Oh, okay, that's why I've never seen it. Okay, thank you. Well, is it good not to have anything in it?
So, how do you wanna, how do you,
I've never seen it, that's why I've asked.
how do you wanna procedurally, do you wanna vote it on it tonight with these changes, or do you wanna just make the changes, put it in consent for the next meeting that we sign, cause that's what we agreed to, or do you wanna take a vote tonight?
If you take a vote tonight, then I can have it in your consent to sign.
Okay. All right. So I will make a motion that we approve the, fund balance policy as discussed and the modifications that we identified, which basically is the two paragraphs that were cleaned up with additional wording, and then the strike of the recommended paragraph underneath the minimum level of unassigned fund balance and just adding the wording of regarding the DRA recommendations as part of the first paragraph. The first original paragraph.
I have one more change on that.
Okay.
Okay.
Was to add the definition of undesignated fund balance
Good idea.
to page 1.
With the page 1.
The balance is 0 on that, by the way. I just found out.
'Cause
That's
we
why
don't-
I've never
we don't
seen
have- we
it.
don't have- Everything
Now
goes
you
to
know.
unassigned, not undesignated, so.
Well, so much for the
I'll
emergency
second that.
money.
Okay, motion made, a little bit of a little adjustment, and second by Mr. Leary. Any other discussion? All those in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed? Motion carries 4-0-0. That's the fund balance. And then
Fraud policy.
fraud policy.
Fraud policy. This one had a lot more, changes.
Yeah, a lot of changes.
Yes. So, I think at the May 12th meeting, on the portal, I had probably more documents related to this. I want to make sure I have the one up with the red for, I do not.
I know a lot of work went into this, but I see a
It did,
major
so-
flaw here.
This,
Where are you?
in going through the fraud policy, there's several things to consider. Number one, I worked with the police chief, and then with legal, and then with different interpretations, speaking with other managers and other policies. So when the police chief and I spoke, we had, my notes, there were some pieces of this policy that we were concerned with. Because some of them are HR related, which are not the police chief. And then there are others that are criminal, and that is most definitely the police chief. So you have different types of fraud. Not all fraud is criminal. There's some fraud which should definitely be dealt with, but it doesn't rise to a criminal specification. And that-
Examples?
So, if an employee misrepresents something to a supervisor, it may not rise to a criminal action, but it definitely could rise to fraud. So you're misrepresenting something that has been done that could actually result in your residents not being served, or in something being misinterpreted, such as a employee comes here and misrepresents something to the board. Should definitely be dealt with, but it's not criminal. It's not criminal for them to misrepresent something. What we looked at was how to deal with those different scenarios. So generally, when you're talking, and I think you've definitely had this in the past, when something comes to our attention, whether it's to the police chief or myself or our department head brings it to me, it definitely needs to be reported to the board. So we made sure that in this fraud policy was protected. The first part is it comes to the board and the board is aware. The second part
relies on a couple different things. It's criminal, then the police chief leads the investigation. The town administrator is just involved in any HR part of that. Legal is involved, and it has to be reported to Primex. Absolutely has to be, because they are our insurance company, and if there is some resulting lawsuit, they are the party that would pay. So, those are the four pieces. And really, those four pieces happen whether it's criminal or not. It's just who's kind of the lead on the investigation. If it's not criminal, most likely you're still gonna have your police chief involved because you're working as a team. But the town administrator would be more of the HR lead, dealing also always with legal counsel involved and always Primex being notified. So it's really the same makeup, it's just who may be the lead on the investigation, depending if it's criminal or not criminal. And at all times, the board is kept aware of any developments. And the reason the board isn't actively involved in the investigation of it is because the board is like a criminal, like a trial. You are the jury. So things are brought forth to you, and ultimately it's the board that makes the decision on such things as termination. If it's criminal, actually the police chief has more discretion on whether charges are brought than the board. It's a discussion that he would have with you, but there are some things that rise of criminal nature that, as the police chief, he would have to report. So those were the process that we used in working through this policy. At all times, things have to remain confidential. So you're dealing with non-public, you're dealing with a lot of legal counsel weighing in, and you're making sure that things are kept confidential from any other staff. There may be portions where there's a department head that's involved, because it's one of their employees, so they may have some notice, but that's the process that we used going through the policy.
I do have a question. I'm putting my combinatorics hat on.
What kind of hat?
Combinations, that's what
Okay.
I do in IT, look at it, okay.
Okay.
And I see a flaw here.
Okay?
I like everything you've done because you did separate police versus HR, which is fine. And the flaw is the jury is the Board of Selectmen. And if I had a part-time fire chief or part-time whatever, who's an employee, and who's also on the Board of Selectmen, we have an issue, because how do we handle that? Because they're protected by HR, but you're reporting everything to the Board of Selectmen. So if the Board of Selectmen is also a town employee, that's
have
the
to.
problem.
They would have to.
But then it's a 2-2 vote. We could get into a deadlock. So what do? That's what I need some legal advice on. How does the process work?
Yeah, that's a great question.
So go back to the lawyers and
You're
figure
not
it
gonna
out,
like-
but I just
No, I
say
did.
it doesn't.
I was gonna say, be careful you ask the lawyers, though.
So when we need to remember, so the board isn't in the situation where the board could embezzle funds.
I'm not worried about the
Right,
board, I'm
so-
saying,
So criminal, you wanna be very careful, there's not that much that the board could do. Now, you could have a case where it would be very difficult, the way that you have the town set up. Because most commonly, when boards get in trouble, is when they are awarding contracts to friends. That's, if you look it up, that's most commonly when boards get in trouble. But you have a purchasing policy that dictates how things can be done. And there's 5 members of you always approving the contract. So the process that it's one. So for many of you, it's very unlikely that you would get into a situation of fraud. The more difficult one would be if you were an employee or a department head. And then that would have to come to the board, and that person would have to recuse himself.
But then we're in a 2-2 potential vote. What do we do in that case? That's what I'm asking. Because this says you have to come to us to do certain things. Right, so you need our consent. But what if one of the people on the board is a problem? I just wanna know how that's handled legally. I think that's a flaw here. I'm not saying anybody's doing anything illegal, I'm just saying
Right.
we need to be ready for that.
The board would have to feel comfortable with the remaining 4 to vote. No one can stand in for a selectman.
Exactly, so we're in a potential 2-2.
Well, I would assume if the person did something egregious, there's not gonna be a 2-2 vote. It's gonna
Right.
be,
Yeah, I'm just saying, I
I
don't
would
know.
assume so
If there was
too.
enough proof, there'd be enough proof for 3.
Don't know that. I've been in some of these non-publics. It is very close. You don't know that. Some people will go look at the law and some people look at emotion.
Alright, ask the question.
I don't think you can get around that, and I'm happy to go back to legal and ask the question, but remember, no one can remove a board member.
I know, but you can remove them as an employee. You could.
Is that where we are?
No,
I thought the governor could.
no, you can remove an employee. We have done that as a board before.
Gary,
I'm saying if there's fraud and you
You'd never
find
do
out
it.
about it, you can remove an employee. So,
Okay, yeah.
I'm
you
just being
could.
on, I'm just saying the way
You
it's
could,
written, I'm
and that
saying
wouldn't
get the
be a
lawyer to
2-2
fix
vote.
it, I just think it's flawed. I'm being honest, I don't agree to this. I agree to you separating out the police, that's great. But,
So if it doesn't go
or,
to the
or
selectmen,
you don't
where do
have
you think it should
employees
go?
as board members, that's another option. But we're in a space that this can happen, I've heard other towns talk about this.
But if the town elects someone who's an employee, then you want to,
So half of them falls under the employee handbook, they're making the decision. They step out of the decision and it's
it's been
stuck.
going
I'm just
on
saying
in-
it's a
been going
2-2
on in
vote.
this town forever.
So my issue is it's a 2-2 vote, is what I'm asking. How do we handle that? That's all I'm asking. Unless, I don't know if you wanna vote on this, or wait for Stephen to get back.
we can table this one again if you like.
Yeah.
I think, I'm fine with most of the I'm fine with all the modifications that you've made.
Same.
I personally don't think there's a legal opinion required, because I think the answer is gonna be the answer. The person has to abstain, and you have to have members have to see it egregious in a majority, that's the answer.
'cause who else can make that decision?
I know, I was
No
thinking,
one.
I don't know, the oldest running state rep, that's not their job. I was trying to think of other scenarios to make this work.
It wouldn't be part of the
But I'm like, well, what if
decision-making.
2 are wrapped up in it, then we have 3, that's good, then what if,
But-
one, this is where I'm starting to say, well, how do you
So I think-
handle a potential tie vote? That's what I was trying to say. How do you handle a potential tie vote?
The decision to terminate lies only with the governing body.
I'm not talking about Board of Selectmen. I'm not talking about terminating a Board of Selectmen.
No, I'm saying if it was an employee, the only one that has the decision to terminate is the Board of Selectmen.
Yep.
And the only ones that can appoint a selectman is a legislative body, so you're stuck.
That's what I'm
Stuck
saying,
with a
we're stuck.
4. You're
Well, I just wanna hear it from legal, cause it
Okay.
puts us in a 2-2 potential, that's my only concern. I like everything else about it.
That has happened with family members coming up, like, so
I've
if
seen
your
it on other
family,
boards.
if somebody in your family was working for the town, then you'd have to recuse yourself. So maybe nobody's family could work for the town. I mean, it just has so many
Yeah.
legs, you know, Kim, I'm
does.
not comfortable with that either.
I'm not comfortable with the potential 2-2 vote. Cause I've been in
But it could be.
non-publics before,
Today it
and they've
could
been.
be.
Yes, it could, so it's flawed today.
Not even for fraud, for any,
No, I said it's flawed today.
yes, but anytime, if something comes up before us in non-public,
Mhm.
and it's something related to something you own, something that, someone that you know, someone that your family have, I've heard selectmen have to recuse themselves because they know the person that's coming up before them is part of their family, and all of a sudden could be a 2-2 vote.
I'm just saying, I look at all combinations, and
Yeah,
that's what I
yeah,
see. I see
yeah.
a flaw here, that's all I'm saying. That's all I've got.
I
You
think
can
the
table it, you can think about it, I don't know.
Okay,
the answer from
I know
legal-
the answer, but
I know the
I don't
answer,
even
but I
know why
want
we're
to
gonna
hear.
bother going illegal. We already know
And the
the
money
answer.
to do it.
I don't know, what does it cost us to ask the question? I would love to know what it costs every time we call legal, but,
Too.
but we already know the answer. It's 2-2.
In many, many,
So-
many ways, other than this fraud policy.
if it's criminal,
It
There's
could-
no
somebody-
conversation.
No conversation at all. If
right,
if a board member
It's
as an
gonna be
employee
recorded.
stole money
I-
from
I-
the town, it's gonna be criminal.
I'm just saying this scenario exists, that's all I'm saying.
In every facet of our work.
Yep.
Not just in fraud, in every facet of our work. For many reasons.
Alright, so I think what I'm hearing, to move this along, we're gonna table this policy.
I don't think that we're gonna get a different answer. I think we should accept it, we should vote on it.
Okay. Anybody else? I'll take a motion to approve it. Someone wants to make the motion,
I don't disagree with Kim, I think she's got a valid point.
but I'll see how it gets fixed.
Don't either, but do we approve something that we know is flawed?
It was flawed to begin with.
Exactly.
It's flawed in any situation
So-
that
wait a
happens.
minute, the policy's not flawed.
No, the policy's not flawed. What the policy's flawed by is, what's being brought up is a situation that, again, would probably be more criminal than anything else if that's what they're going after. So,
It's like we're 2-2.
probably.
Well, I can answer one question. For me to even ask the question, the least it would be is $50, so.
Yeah.
I'm gonna say
I
this.
do understand
even
what
if-
you're saying.
Even if they come back that way, I think it's flawed, and
I
gonna
do
be a no.
understand what you're saying.
The
but-
fix
but
is
it-
no employees are on the board of selectmen, that's the fix. That's a potential fix, or their
That is a
contractors.
potential, and no
So-
family.
so there's no
but-
problem
but it-
here.
But it would have to be extended
Say
to
it was
no
me.
family, no family that worked in the town hall or that could work for the town administrator that could create fraud. You'd be talking anybody, there'd be absolutely no family or anybody.
Well,
So
no,
say my nephew comes in and works as the building inspector.
Yeah.
So something happens with fraud from that building inspector and he comes in, or we
You're
have to
recusing.
meet. All of
You're
a sudden, I
recusing,
have to
yeah.
recuse myself
Yeah.
because I have it doesn't even matter that he's a nephew, he could be a cousin. And all of a sudden, I could make a bad decision. All of a sudden, you're at 2-2.
Yep.
So I just don't think that, so it would be flawed at that situation too,
Yep.
right?
It is.
Yeah, I don't know how, in a small community, when you have family members that live in town and other things, I don't see how it's gonna get corrected.
I would
Where
even
is it-
think you can expand it to it's my neighbor, who, was like, mowing my lawn and picking up my mail. And he shows up here and he, I have a predisposition maybe, to try not to vote.
You'd have to-
Because of
You would
emotion,
have to abstain
but
yourself from a lot of discussion.
all of a sudden it's 2-2.
With your large
Because
family in
half your
town.
Bob, yeah, maybe nobody with more than
But the
10.
difference is,
family
if the
members in
Board
town.
of Selectmen member can stay as a voting member, that's the bad thing. I'm just saying, they
But they
could,
can't.
You can't, no, you ideally
if
would
they don't
abstain.
recuse themselves, I've
They
seen
have
that
to.
They would
happen.
have
They would
to.
If the
to.
conversation's about them or their department, they would have to recuse themselves.
And I think we've all done it.
It's
Or
flawed.
their
You vote the way you want.
family member, or
It's
whatever
flawed.
the conversation is. But I would say that if you can refrain from hiring, a family member could never work for a department head.
That's
That
just-
is a family member. That's nepotism.
Right,
that's also
and that
general
shouldn't
policy
happen.
anyway.
That should not
Absolutely
happen.
cannot happen.
It's really hard to
Yeah.
manage. I've dealt with it as a manager before, it's very hard.
But we have examples in this town where we have family members working for, within the same departments, but different structures of management. The fire department. So again, this is a small community where people come back and work and give back to this community. You cannot restrict this town to not hire a neighbor, a friend, somebody they know, or kids that grew up.
But he's
who
not a
know.
direct report.
They're not a direct, well,
He's not a direct report.
correct, but again, I get it.
She was
But
all
there's still
nervous.
so many times where there's 5 of us that it could go to 2,
Right.
you know?
Yes.
Outsource it to, yeah.
No,
Nah, sorry, Ron.
no.
Yeah. Agree.
All right, then, I guess if we're not gonna be able to, I mean, I'll take a motion to approve it, I think it's gonna fail. But if it's not gonna, let's, you can get a legal opinion, we know it's gonna be
Yeah.
$50, thank you.
Yeah.
And then,
Minimum.
when we have a full board, we can have a conversation around it again and see if someone else has another thought about it.
Yes,
Okay.
just pause and reflect on it.
We've had this in
Same
front of
here.
us like 4 times,
But
now,
I've seen
haven't
it
we?
too, it's not nice.
It's been here like 4 times, right?
Well, the policy's been, I think the point is, the policy's been here since the 12th, actually before the 12th. So we do wanna get through them, so.
Oh, it was just on the 12th, I thought.
And there was a
really-
lot of work done on that policy to,
Oh, yeah, I like your work on it.
oh, and so I did put the
It's hard, I get it. Karen.
You
anti-fraud
did.
policy
I just
from
think it's so
Primex,
widespread.
the notes that we
No longer a small town.
used. So,
It is still a small town, oh good lord, it is.
go to the next one?
Yeah, so next, we'll move to the next policies, if we don't mind.
It's over.
This will be background check policy.
It's a great.
Oh, boy.
So the
Which
first
one is
read,
this?
the background check policy, this was, the first read was on the 12th, we've had, a month, I guess, to look at it at this point.
Okay. So, this one is difficult.
In so many
Why?
ways,
Define difficult.
because we don't follow it, first off.
That's not,
I have recommendations.
Yep.
But I actually asked legal a question. I have a question.
That's $50.
I know. Well, it's a really good
The
question.
first 50.
Because
It's 25 every minute. after
here's the issue. So you have a background check, a background policy that has not been followed for years.
Unbelievable.
And that's a problem. It's especially a problem because you have employees that you have hired and you are putting a condition of future employment upon them, but you did not notify them of that when you hired them. And I'll give you, for instance, and I'm not saying that they necessarily have a problem with it, but for lack of better, I'll use myself. You hired me. At no point was I given this policy. At no point was I told my future employment required on you liking my driver's record every 3 years. You have to tell employees that their future employment relies on these things. So when you hire someone, you need to give them this policy. neither is any of this written in my contract, the chief's contract, or the sergeant, or the captain's contract. And it should be. It should be written right into those contracts that if any of these things come back and they are unacceptable, the termination could occur. Here's the next thing. What is unacceptable? It's not defined. So it's not defined in your policy, it's not defined, this is just a bad policy. The next thing is, every time you do a background check, it's $25. How important is it that we check every firefighter, including call firefighters? Now you're talking 20 people, 25 people, every 3 years we're gonna background check all those people all over again? Is that a good use of taxpayer money?
Are they going into people's houses?
Well, to a certain extent, there is a policy, but you can't background check your police officers every 3 years. You can background check them upon hire. But you can't background check. Number one, it's not agreed on by the union. Number two, it's not a general practice. If a police officer or the chief or the captain was arrested, they have a board. They have a police standards board that they report to.
Right.
That would be the mechanism that deals with that, and the town would be informed. So, is that good use of taxpayer money to spend, and what's your outcome? Nowhere are we saying what's acceptable or unacceptable.
I was more concerned that the sports teams weren't able to bring in the coaches and check them. And granted, we are still a small town, so for the most part, we do know who our coaches are. But there's still things that come up that you don't know.
So I think this one needs a lot more work. And I wanted to at least have the discussion, because I agree with you, that coaches is a big red flag.
Yeah. Boy Scout leaders, and
But the town doesn't have the right to check Boy Scout leaders, because that's a private organization.
okay.
They don't report to the town. And with our,
Coaches don't report to the
with
town.
our rec, it's a little bit more difficult, because you're right, they don't, right? I mean, they are private organizations. Rec commission can say, for use of our fields, you have to sign off that your coaches have been checked. You can do that. But you don't have the right to ask for that information, because they're just using your fields. They don't report to the town. It's a private nonprofit. So, I sent a couple questions over to legal, and I wanted to be careful, because I certainly understand, okay, your treasurer. Do you want a financial check your treasurer, and do you want it every 2 years? And are we running a motor vehicle check on the treasurer every 2 years? I mean, if you look at this table, it's really,
If your job entails driving as part of that. I mean,
Town vehicle, that we don't care about their personal.
right.
yeah, for the town vehicles.
Well, the town vehicle I've seen, but I haven't seen it just as a matter of, so.
What about the plow people that we hire to come into town? I mean, it can go on
They-
forever.
Well, in
Yeah.
2019, this board added them in the annual review with their background. But I don't see it, I'm not sure I even see it in the policy.
But for any plow driver that's driving their own truck, they supply us with their insurance. So it's their liability, their insurance, for anyone who's driving our trucks, we get a motor vehicle report on them. CDL, so the road agent,
Well, it doesn't say, it just says,
Full-timers, yeah.
I guess it says vehicle operators, it doesn't really say our truck or their truck, but it looks like it's a yearly thing based on DOT rules.
subject to DOT. Yeah,
John
it's more
knows,
serious.
John knows being in IT that we get drug tested, background, you know, but some of them are random. It doesn't have to happen every year. You could just be randomly picked. So it wouldn't
But
have to be.
somewhere in some policy that you received,
Could everybody be given a new policy?
it had to have specified
But
that.
we could do that where you're randomly picked for the year, right? Or, you know, not everybody has to be that.
Assuming our policy says it that, right?
No, I'm just saying that could be a change if we can't afford it to do it for everybody.
So the way the policy is written now, it says employees in positions filled after May 1st, 2012. What's that?
That's
Why
when-
that date?
That's when the policy was actually originally created.
So there's only two
course.
employees that
Act two.
that
Three.
affects.
Spin went the wrong way. You're welcome, my goodness.
And I would say in two of the positions that probably should be checked. If you were going to have positions checked. And I'm not sure that, I think it's definitely important when you hire. Definitely, right? There's no question, you're background checking these people, you're, financial, doing a financial check on these people. But here's the other thing. When you ask for a financial check, when you're credit checking someone, there's a document that you have to give them by the Fair Credit. And you have to give them that document, which gives them all their rights, and they have to sign. That document's not even created. So how can you say you were asking for credit checks on people when that document doesn't even exist in our drive?
I never signed it. I got a financial background check when I first started doing stuff here.
You can't do that. You can't do it. It's against the
My
law.
social, here's my check, and no,
Yeah,
that's
exactly.
it.
You can't. It's against, even if the town did it, it's on them. They have to. It's not a choice.
No, I agree. I'm just saying, there is no form, because I think I was asked to write down a number and I wrote it
So,
down. and it all
We
went
need a
through.
lot more work
Yep.
on this. That's my only point. We need to work. I'm interested in what the board
Can you-
feels.
Can you get other towns' information on this? Like, do you
I
have
think-
people in other towns that you can say, what do you use as a background check
I
policy?
can guess I'll get a bunch.
And just let us know what
Any
their
particular-
policies look like.
Sure.
People around us, I mean, just see what they're using.
I know in 2012 when it was created, and at that time, we had no policies. And so we were at a feverishly pace building policies to get through a problem that happened. Right, because we had fraud, we had a whole bunch of things that occurred during that period of time. And the focus areas at that time was coaches, it was those kind of things were the focus areas. I
Yep.
think other stuff got added on because I tried to find the original source for 2012, and I couldn't. Any of these charts weren't there that I could find. I just found the paragraphs. So I don't know. And back in 2019, I think it was referenced as how progressive of a policy this was.
Yes, I read that. too.
2016, no, 2016.
That's right.
This is a progressive policy, meaning it
Who
was
wrote
very-
that?
It was in the minutes. I think it was Lemire. I think it was Brent that said it, but or Troy Brown actually called it progressive because
Yes.
it's time my town administrator then.
But I checked. I mean, and it wasn't done. So
Yeah, you put it in place and you don't do it, and then all of
Yeah,
a sudden it
that's
becomes
the
a
bothersome
problem.
part of it.
and then it makes it very difficult for you to say that the policy is treating employees
the same.
equally.
But I wonder if what got in the way was that after May first, employees after May first. Cause I can't think of a new employee here, I mean, other than maybe the clerk's office, that hasn't been here since May 2012.
So I think the background policy has been being done to new hires.
Yeah.
Right? The background policy, the background check, other than the fact that it says the police chief will do a background check, and if you call the police chief in, he's gonna tell you he's not.
Well, the last.
He does background checks on his employees. The town side does background checks on our
The
employees.
police chief probably would do it for us on our behalf. But, I mean, I don't think we even saw the background, I think they just gave us a report.
Oh,
He's got a yay or nay.
What we were looking for
well, I would hope
was,
on,
was theft or that kind
Yeah,
of,
nothing.
that kind of criminal
nothing-
background,
nothing
theft or
Cause it was criminal
Sexual
background
history.
check, so,
uncomfortable sexual
but
history.
that's my recollection, but.
I mean, I would
don't-
think on the town administrator, it should be given to you, but, and I did have one, so. But on the credit checks, they haven't been done. So if you had one done, congratulations, you were lucky.
It was for me working in the police department. It was a
Oh.
requirement to get the CJIS requirement, get through it, all that stuff. And I have no objection to doing it, it doesn't matter to me.
And I think because, I mean, I have the document, the rules and people's rights that you have them sign, I have that now. But I think there was some people that didn't know how to do that. You know, it's real easy to do a background check on someone. It's a form, you send it to the state police, they send it back. Very easy. A credit check is a little bit more difficult if you haven't done one before. I think that was some of the holdup on why it hasn't been done in the past.
So it sounds like we don't wanna make a decision tonight, but maybe get a couple
Yeah.
of references so we can look at.
So
to
I'll get you some
compare.
policies and you can weigh what you're comfortable
See what they do,
with.
Yeah.
yeah.
And then whatever corrective action we have to take after we agree on a new policy, we have to take. If it means sending out the notification to all the employees, make sure they sign it, understand it, we'll have to figure that out, I guess.
Yeah.
Usually employment's based on you passing these tests, right? They give you a job, letter, right? Offering you the job, but it says it's based on passing the following.
Well, I had to go like for physical,
Yeah.
and part of that was blood work and stuff like
Yeah.
that. And
Yeah.
Me too.
So, no, I mean,
Oh,
not
for
to
the
be rude.
job.
Yeah, for a job, yeah.
It's-
You had to
It's-
get blood work for a job?
Yeah.
They really suck
Yeah,
the
they-
blood out of you.
In the private
Oh, the drug
sector-
use, yes, yeah.
In the
Pee
private
blood.
sector, drug tests
Oh,
are
all the time?
all the
Common.
I
time.
think
Common
CDLs do
There's
it
concept.
too.
not, in the
Yep.
municipal sector, unless you're driving, like, unless you're a truck driver or a DPW, it is not uncommon not to be drug tested.
Yeah,
I don't quite understand that, cause I'm thinking.
the private sector is
Private
just,
sector,
those
yeah.
employees just don't have the rights, maybe, I don't know.
I don't know, it's,
They must have the same rights, I don't know.
it's
So this looks like it was reviewed and updated as soon, recently as 2019.
Which
Hasn't been reviewed year over year after two thousand
concerns
nineteen?
me.
No.
Why wasn't it reviewed every year? It's supposed to be reviewed every year.
COVID hit in
I
20.
didn't know
Well,
about,
COVID hit,
COVID
yeah,
hit in
but
20.
then COVID's been out.
Yeah.
So-
Alright, so here we are back again, and obviously we need to make some
right,
changes.
and
changes.
so I didn't even know about the policy until we started discussing the fact that all these policies need to be reviewed. And I went in and grabbed them all, and I saw it and went, ooh, what's this?
It's good to be checked up, though.
So,
No, we have to, I
Times
mean, our
change.
policies, our policy says we're gonna do it every year, so.
Yeah, I saw that.
Alright, so we're gonna wait for some examples to take a review.
yeah, and we'll go from there. And then the next one, credit cards, real easy. I have no changes. I spoke with Karen, our finance director. She had no changes, so we just suggest approving as is. That one's easy.
We need a motion for that?
Yes, please.
Make a motion to accept the credit card policy as written.
Motion by Mr. Leary, do I have a second?
Second.
Second by Ms. Plansky. Any comment, any discussion? All those in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, 400, passes.
Something done.
One's
All
done,
right.
yes.
Woo-hoo.
All the way down to number,
Yeah, we can go way down back to the bottom, right? Let's see, we're going
all the
to,
others are done.
yep, so 2026 warrant article discussion, I believe.
And I think we've, so the motor vehicle, I'm not sure, I don't think Mrs. Plansky was here, but I think the rest of you were when, our town clerk and I brought this forward before. This is regarding a $5 fee that can be added to people's motor vehicle registrations, and it can only be used to be put in a fund for road improvement, including paving.
Why would we do that?
Why would we do that, or why?
Yeah, why would we add $5 to?
It's a local fee that can be assessed on people's motor vehicles to help offset the cost of paving. The caveat is, it can only be put into place by warrant article, so that means the legislative body, the voters voting, approving it. So the question was if you wanted to bring it forward for warrant. There are many communities that have it. I think the thought was $5 a person or motor, registration adds up, which can offset, but it's probably not so much that it really impacts the individual $5. So I think that was the thought in the legislature creating it, and many municipalities have it. So it'd be up to you if you wanted to bring it forward for a
So
while.
I think, we talked about it, cause I think it brought up in one of the leadership meetings, and I happened to be sitting in the room, but, I guess I know it didn't come up when I was on the board. I think it came up till probably the last 4 years or so it came up. I'm just curious of why we didn't consider it. Cause I do like the fact that it's earmarked, and the only thing it can be used for is that. It's not like we can raise it in our appropriation and it get put someplace else. Its purpose is only road maintenance. But it isn't, again, it's not a lot of money that could be raised in 1 year.
How many cars do we register every year?
I don't honestly have that that answer. Good one, but I'll find out.
Okay.
I'll ask our town clerk.
Alright. I don't know.
I don't like it.
I don't like it.
See, that was the answer we got last time.
I don't like it.
That's
I
why I
don't
said,
like it.
the reason why I said bring it forward is because it got brought up again, and I wasn't aware of it at the time, and I didn't know what the feeling of the previous board or existing people were on it. I mean, like I said, I like the idea that it's earmarked for one thing and one thing only, but
If we had a vote, I would vote no. And it could still be 3-2, but my vote would be no.
well, it has to go to the voters anyway. If we said
Right,
let's
but as far
let
as
the voters
bringing it to
decide,
warrant, I would vote no.
I'm a no.
See, I think when we discussed it, I mean,
It's another
the
tax.
town clerk and I,
Another fee.
it was only the voters can approve it. Only the people that would actually be being charged it can approve it.
Yeah.
So,
And only the people that vote are like 2,000 people, and there's a lot more people in town, so,
that's a
you know,
good
when
point.
they complain about it, they're like, well, did you vote? No, we didn't vote because of X, Y, Z. Well,
Good point.
so you're not represented because you didn't vote.
I mean, it's $40,000
A year.
roughly. I mean, that's probably low ball. It's not a lot to make a dent, but I mean, the optics may be worse than making it
I mean, one of the good questions I heard in another municipality, is when this came up, was if you are registering, pick an old car, any old car.
71 Mustang.
That's pretty nice, but
Ain't that old.
2000 Chevette, it's $5. If you're registering a 23 dump truck, it's $5.
Yeah,
If you're a family of four that has four people,
It's $20.
it's $20. Which, you know, I just don't like the idea of adding another fee for, I'd rather put $200,000 in the paving fund and tell people that $200,000 is in the paving fund, and bam, you know, that's what it is, that's what it's for, that's what that account will only be used for, or whatever, you know?
Just a devil's advocate then, why are we charging fees down the recycling center?
I don't know, I wasn't around when we put them in place.
Fees for,
Fees
like
for
when
what?
you drop stuff off,
Yeah,
because they have to dispose of it. And it costs them
we
money.
have to repair roads too. It's the same argument.
No, it's different.
I,
We pay a lot of money in taxes in
as I
this
just
town
said,
as it
devil's
is.
advocate, I'm not saying one way or the other.
Yeah.
The
I
other day,
just,
it's like-
to me, it's a gut feeling and I don't like it. So that's just, you know,
Well, I don't like the
it doesn't mean
hybrid.
that, it doesn't mean,
I don't like
I'm
the
one of
hybrid- I
five.
don't like the hybrid fees neither, but look what's happened when they get taken away from the visual ratepayers and now it's taxpayer burden. There's no, as far as, there's no action here, we want to just bring it up as a topic to discuss. And if there's doesn't seem any consensus to move forward, to even have a further conversation, so we'll just.
Well, there's five of us, so we could bring it up when there's all five of us here.
It feels like it's still gonna be a 3-2 vote.
So what? Then that's a passing vote.
No, 3-2 against.
Oh, I don't know.
You think Steve's
I
gonna
don't
change
know,
something?
I'm undecided, I think nickeling and diming, it depends on the politics of the day, and then they might go for the low-hanging fruit one, not the big one that you need, you know?
That you really
But
need.
that's my concern over fees in general,
Mm-hmm. I don't like fees.
right? I think, I mean, if you listen to the budget, well, I shouldn't put words in it, but what I've heard from folks who have advised us on how we should budget our budget, we should charge the users of the service and not charge every taxpayer. And just like I said, this is one way to shift that, but it's not a lot, it's not enough to kinda make it, it's not worth it. So, anyway, alright,
Okay.
we have moved forward there, alright.
And then House Bill 99, so our town clerk, let us know the other day that this had passed. I just wanted to bring this up because this is more of a conversation for after the revaluation. I strongly remember the board saying they wanted us to look at exemptions and credits and compare them and bring forth any recommended changes if we thought there should be one. This bill, though, I think there's a lot of conversation out there and people aren't interpreting it correctly. So, it does change the max from 4,000 to 5,000. Does do that. But the bill as it says now only requires someone to be totally disabled. The bill as it's changed requires someone to be totally disabled and permanently disabled, and there is a difference. So,
How's there a difference?
permanently disabled, so I've gone over this with the veterans. Permanently disabled, there'll actually be a check mark on a permanently disabled on their paperwork from the Veterans Administration, and that means they are not rechecked. They're considered permanently, their medical situation won't change.
They're not gonna get better.
Right.
Gotcha. And then totally disabled.
That's
something
much
different.
harder to get than the way it is now. So there are probably people that would get it now that will lose it under the new bill. We currently have 37 as it is now. But we may not have 37 once it has been voted into law, but it only takes effect next April 1st, cause that's when. So,
We don't have any idea of how that affects the 37 we have?
no, so that's the process that we're gonna have to go through, is by contacting those people, and looking at their paperwork to see if they're going to still qualify as permanent and totally disabled, permanent and total. And so it's a process that we're going to have to go through, but I wanted to let you know that we're aware of it. And, you know, we're talking with our experts, to see exactly how we should look at those 37 and review them to see how many people qualify. I get that now, as the bill's written now, they qualify for the 701 and the 750. They qualify for both. Under the new, they will not. And so that may mean that you wanna look at taking those people who are permanent and total and raising that, which again would have to be by warrant article, but maybe you raise that to 1,500 so they don't lose the 750. That, I think that's a conversation after we figure out how many are gonna still be eligible under the way the laws written.
Used the way the wording was, because disabled veterans, and then one says service-connected disability, so is that where the fall, like,
They're both service, connected. Only one is service connected totally disabled.
Yep.
And one is service connected permanent and totally disabled.
I didn't know if it just applied to you became disabled in the service, that's what this, to me, looked like, but I don't know.
Yeah, you have to be, in both versions, you have to be disabled
Service
because of
connected.
your service in the. Yeah, you couldn't be disabled by a vehicle accident. I mean, it's not. Has to be related to your service in the forces.
So they're the same then? It's the same criteria here? Or am I wrong? Am I wrong? It was confusing, because one says
That's-
disabled veterans, and that could have happened during service or after, I wasn't sure. And this one down here said service-connected total disability, that's why I wasn't sure if it was,
They both should be. And the language I have, they're both connected to your service. That doesn't change. It only changes, one says you're totally disabled because of your service, and the new one says you're totally disabled because of your service and it's permanent. You're permanently disabled.
I guess I'm just looking under House Bill 99, your first paragraph. It just says to waiver from property taxes for disabled veterans, it just kinda left it there, that's why I was saying, which one was it?
I mean, I did, I thought I did, maybe I didn't.
So you're saying this is gonna hurt more people? The way
Sounds
the
like it.
Litchfield, the way our articles are? It's supposed to help people statewide. But is it hurting Litchfield because of the way we have things worded?
I agree, it's supposed to help people.
Yeah,
Not so sure that it
No, not
does.
so
I
sure
don't
either,
think
yeah.
it
Well, it may
did.
not help in towns that have already made steps.
right, that's what I meant,
Yeah, we've already made steps that are above what the state is saying.
There's a lot of towns, so ours is only 701. There's a lot of towns that have 4,000 already. They adopted the max. And I thought I had put that sheet out here. If I didn't, I'm sorry. I was loading so much stuff to this portal. I will,
You're not perfect?
oh no, far from it. Just ask my husband. I will send you the report of all the towns and what all their levels are. And, if anyone else wants it, I can send it, it's public information.
So these are towns like us that have already put it in through warrant article and they're taking care of their values.
Yeah, so you can see how many towns have 4,000 already as their max, like their voters voted that
What do we
in.
have?
We have 701, the minimum,
Okay.
yeah. So, I mean, I think at very least, you'd probably wanna consider at least raising it to the 1,500 so they don't lose the 750 that they would lose. But I think it's a much bigger conversation, and since the board had already asked that we review our elderly exemptions and everything after the revaluation to see how much the revaluation has impacted them, because for some people,
Maybe,
they
you know,
may be substantially impacted by the revaluation, and then their exemption may not be, as helpful. So.
Yep.
We're,
Makes sense.
we're aware, we'll get you whatever information you need to make your decision.
so that they're okay. Okay. What is this code red transition?
So had this put on, so, as you probably recall, we're transitioning away from Code Red to the Civic Plus mass notification system
Oh, okay. Yep.
as part of the investments we made last year, 2 years ago, whatever. We're just not seeing the uptake in people registering. We're just trying to get the process in front of more and more people as we can. And so we've been talking to the town clerk, what we've done in the past. And then we did the initial Code Red, we used to stuff the information single sheet into the tax bills and into the registrations and stuff like that. And before we proceed, I wanna make sure you folks are good with doing that again. The idea is that we would take that single pamphlet which has the QR code to go out and do the registration, put it in there as informational, and then also have that same sheet available at the town clerk and town office when people come in and hand it to them, to kind of drive them to sign up. There was some commentary about what can be put into the tax bill and what can't be in the tax bill. Again, we've done it in the past, we're not influencing, positioning or anything like that, it's informational. And, I just wanted to make sure, one, the board had no objections, and if there was no objections, the town clerk, working with Kim, will get that little piece of paper together and start getting that inserted, so we get some more uptick, hopefully, if there's no objections. That was it.
I have no objection. Kim, do you have an objection?
I don't know what the law is. What does the law say?
It's by the governing body,
Okay.
so.
Yeah, and it just says it's gotta be free of influence and
Yeah.
persuasion or political commentary.
And all we're trying to do is be able to alert people that there's an emergency,
It's a
right?
card, right? It says, please register for notifications by the town, blah, 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 that's all.
Okay, so it's, for the most part, it's,
Yeah, you
don't
can't
forget to
influence,
vote, there's
Yeah,
a
no.
street closed, there's a fire, yeah. Okay.
the law is you can't influence public policy. You would not be doing that.
Okay.
And again, we've done it in the past, we thought it was wise just to make sure everybody remembered. Especially if someone goes, why is this stuck in my bill? So, I don't,
We're gonna go call John.
Put his home phone
so
number
no,
on it.
I don't think there's no action, it's from us, I just wanna make sure there was no disagreement. So, are we okay, Bob, with it?
Sure.
Okay.
We're not forcing people to get on it anyways.
No,
It's
no.
just- Although I got signed up for it, and I don't even know how I got signed up for it. I just started getting notifications on the Code Red.
I didn't sign you up for it.
I didn't sign me up for it.
I thought you did, you sat in a meeting one day and did it.
No,
We can take you out if you don't want them. I think I can remove them, I don't think I can put them in, we can remove them out of it though. I think you can. Actually, I'm not sure, no, I'd have to go look.
So,
Cause we can't put people in. So they have
Yeah,
to- They have to
that's
go and
the
sign up themselves
downside.
first, so.
And to move them from Code Red to Civic Plus, the mass notification, Code Red, you can't transfer information. You can't take people that moved up for Code Red and automatically sign them up, so.
All right, so that's good. We'll proceed with that once Terry gets back from her vacation. So internal, this was a conversation that started a while back. I wasn't around the 12th, and obviously the 23rd, we had another conversation, but internal board communications. So I just want to clarify a few things. One, there's always that moment where the chair who's trying to organize a meeting needs to reach out and just get a feeler, right? Anything for the agenda. You're gonna be attending the meeting, right? Or the one-offs where we have to make a decision because it's time sensitive, like we had to do a while back, what started this conversation. When there are when I text somebody, I treat it just like if I called each one of you individually. It's the same thing. I'm calling you, I'm having a conversation with you, I'm getting your answer, and I'm moving on to the next one. When I text you, I don't text you in a group because I don't want a conversation started. I'm asking for feedback, and I just want a response back. That's my input, what you thoughts were, or what you want to add on the agenda, and it kind of helps me get through what I gotta get done. In the notion of when there's a poll or need, like, for example, we had to put up a sign and it was time sensitive, I polled everybody, said, we got the sign up, it was after the meeting, is there any objections? We have a sign, we have a crunch for time, if we don't post it now, we're gonna miss Easter. And everybody came back and said, fine with that, fine with me. That got recorded and was added to our communications as a decision, as a vote that occurred, or a conversation that occurred and a majority agreed. So that's the transparency side. I'm only doing it because it's efficient for me to do it. I have no objection if anybody else does it themselves, as long as we keep it that way. But I guess I'd like to hear from anybody else. I mean, emails tend to become storms, and I think that's when emails tend to have a lot of dialogue back and forth because we forget the BCC or people are included in the messaging and that kind of thing. I mean, we need to be aware that RSA 91A is applied in anything we do. Any email communications we have, whether it's individual or to the board, is fair game. So isn't the Texas, right? And I have, again, anything that's deciding a decision is going to get posted as a communications with the dialogue. That's at least how I'm treating it. So I'd just like to hear anybody else's opinion or whatever.
The problem with communicating by text messages is somebody pulls a right to know, now they have your phone.
They can have my phone.
They can have anybody's phone. So it's not.
Well, I might not want everybody to have everything in my phone.
Well,
They get your whole phone.
So I don't do text messages. And as I said before, I don't think it's the right thing to do. I think it, don't know that it's illegal, but it's definitely not the right thing to do. And I've stated that I won't respond to board texts. If you wanna reach me, it's a phone call or an email.
So Bob, when you were the chair, I received multiple group texts regarding things going on the board. So I don't know why you're, in the way I'm doing it is, I'm texting you individually, asking you a question. I would hope out of respect you'd respond back, saying yay or nay, or here's my opinion. Then I go to the next person, ask the same exact question, get a response. Again, I'm soliciting the members about a decision, or I wanna add something to the agenda, or do you need something added to the agenda, or trying to coordinate a upcoming event.
Isn't 91A?
I can see the wheel turning in your head.
Yeah, isn't 91A have to do with text, a one-on-one conversation, or isn't it when there's more than three?
More
I'll
than
give
three
you
is
an
a quorum.
example.
It's
No.
a meeting.
Right.
So I wanna be really clear on this, because this does kick in. It does, if you are texting, and it is business, it is town business, it does not necessarily have to be a quorum. And I'll give you an example. When I worked for the mayor, he was my supervisor, I was his employee.
somebody thought there may be text messages between us on an issue that was city business, our text messages were reviewed.
Mhm.
We had to turn them over.
Yep.
And so it does not necessarily have to be a quorum. It can be business. It could be someone thinks there's text messages between John and I on a specific subject, and they write to know that. But then we're giving those text messages, the
Right.
one between
Specific
John and I.
ones,
and
yeah.
We're not giving,
Yeah,
we're not giving them my husband's
conversation that I'm
text
having with my
messages.
kid, right? If
Right.
I'm having with my kids, it's not gonna be in there.
But if you are text messaging as a board, then you're committing business in an illegal manner.
And that's one of the reasons
Can't do
why
that.
I changed the way I do it. The way I've been doing is, I'm not group texting. It's just like I'm making a phone call to you and having asked them the question. In the past, when I sat as chair, I'd have to do the telephone call around. It was just, reaching out to everybody, getting the feedback, having to write down what they said. That's the first problem I had to do. So I could remember it and then go to
Right.
the next one after, and spent 4 hours chasing people
Oh
down.
my
that way.
god, that's exhaustion.
So,
Yeah.
again, I'm texting
Everyone
you
is.
all individually. If someone wants to forward my phone or forward a specific text between my board members and me, I can generate them in 30 seconds and you can have them all.
Okay.
I think for me, the bylaws say you set the agenda and you run the meeting. Other than that, we're equal. Am I wrong about that? That's what the
If-
bylaws said, right?
If the
So I don't mind if you text me about, do you wanna add anything to the agenda? Or, anything about the meeting or whatever. I just don't like business being done unless it's an emergency that can't wait.
The chair,
Because I get ideas off of you while we're talking, or you, right? And we don't have that. And, well, again, that's what the bylaw says. You set the agenda and you run the meeting.
set aside the bylaws for a second. The RSA's are very clear, the chair represents the board in the public, coordinates the meetings and the business of the board. So if an actual business thing comes up, like for example, we had to have a special meeting because we wanted to talk about the donation. I reached out to all of you saying, we had this situation, we felt it was appropriate to have a meeting, not make a decision in a cold and doing it, right? We had a meeting because it was that important. The case of like the sign, we had a sign application coming after we met, and our policy says we have to get it up in so many days, and we don't meet for 2 more weeks, and Easter was gonna be long gone. The poll was, is there any objections of us putting the sign up?
I agree. If that's a time-sensitive thing, I'm okay with.
And
But
that's
if
what we're
any
talking
other
about.
running of business, I'm not okay with. Because
Has there
again,
been
we
other
have to
ones?
let everybody see it, everything, body language.
Well, here's the other
The dynamics
situation.
of working with each other that way.
Here's the other situation, when I was in chair before, we had a lot of events happen in town. That were public safety related. My method of reaching out was, I'd have to call each one and give you the update what was going on. Today, I would just send you all a text going, hey, this is going on down at Charles Bancroft Highway, roads closed, but from this time to this time, police chief will keep me up to date, we'll pass it along.
I don't understand why the police chief doesn't do that, why you do that.
Why would he reach out to all 5 members?
It's just like a text email, like you said. I don't know why it goes from you to you to, I don't
I
understand, I'm
wouldn't
just
ask the
asking.
police, I wouldn't ask
I
the
don't
police
understand.
chief to text.
Yeah, I know, I get it.
Again,
would
I
get-
don't understand, that's all I'm asking, but I don't wanna run any business, I think the public has to see us work as a team, and we work off each other's ideas better. But time sensitive, I agree with you on that.
So are you okay with me texting you for agenda topics for the next meeting?
You-
Okay,
All
just
you
do
always do
email.
is say, do you wanna add anything to the agenda? I usually see you post it.
Yeah, I meet with her on Fridays before the
Right.
meeting to coordinate the agenda and build
Right,
the
if I
the
need
workload
to,
for us.
I could, if you always send a text, well, you don't always, but sometimes saying, do you have anything you wanna add to the agenda? And I write back, I did like this week, no, I don't.
Yeah.
Sometimes you're right, something comes up, or a citizen comes up to you and says something, and, oh, I need to see if we can get it on the agenda, right? Which I would reach out to you on, once you put it together.
Well, it's Kim and I putting it together, but
It's the same as email though, why don't we use the proper channel?
Because Bob, for example, you need to update your Steve Gannon email, cause every email you send to Steve Gannon is going to RC.
Mhm.
You should fix that.
I did.
Okay, cool. Because we've seen his email starts into a chain, because people will send to the board and it'll end up being a whole thread. And try to avoid that.
I can't avoid it. I don't know if I'm doing it wrong. I have like every
Yeah.
comment on it, and I'm not sure if I've read them all. Sometimes I'll read the first one that came on, and I won't realize I've missed the other 4. And then I'm going back and I'm going, oh, I missed that, you know? So that is a problem for me. I don't know if there's any way to unlink those so that they don't do that.
Unlike what, like a chained email?
The chain emails that are,
Well, they're threaded, and
Yeah.
you're probably responding to something in the bottom, somewhere in the thread.
yep, and I mean to be replying to you, and all of a sudden I'm replying to Steve Gannon, cause he was next, and,
You
you
can,
know.
you can turn off threading if you want, but that makes it harder to find all the emails.
Right, then
It's a
yeah.
double-edged sword.
Yep, it is.
Well, I think another item is, so somewhere, and it just shows of,
That's just your reference of how it looks on your
Okay.
contact list.
in the past,
Yeah, it says all board of commerce selectmen.
yeah, it's,
Board commerce like that.
in the past, if a board or an individual had something to discuss and add to the agenda, they would send it to the town administrator, and then that would be a conversation that John and I would have on Fridays when he came. The problem with them sending stuff to the whole board is now that's a public document. It's like having a meeting outside of a meeting.
Right.
We should really refrain from people
The
doing
emails.
that.
Yeah.
They should send it to me, I'll talk to John. If John says, yeah, add it to the agenda, which I'm sure he would, but it will get added to the agenda, and then all the conversations here, not in an email. And so, you know, like there were a number of emails this week like that.
Like the Steve Perry one about the machines.
Yeah.
and-
Yeah, you know, the Dara Pond, it's not to stop them from having a conversation with you folks, but conversations they have with you folks should be here,
Right.
because they all have a right to hear those. Conversations with me, no one cares about.
And you can send out
It's
a
not my
blanket
email.
email, but just at the bottom of it, you say, respond to me solely, or respond to Kim solely, not on the thread. And that eliminates the meeting.
And I want the most information I can get as a new board member, and I want the most time I can to examine it before the meetings. And I do try really hard to keep up with everything that's happening, and for the most part, I think I'm getting better at it. Like I said, I still, sometimes when they're linked. And for the most part, I think the only texts I've gotten from John have been singular. I don't think there's been any
I don't do
group
group
texts.
texting.
So long as, you know, I'm saying, no, I don't have anything to add to the agenda, and if they I'm that, they're gonna look at my conversations with John only, then that's fine. I just don't, you know, want my conversation with my husband, you know, Pookie conversations out there, you know?
And I try, especially now, to put as much information as I possibly can on the portal.
Yeah,
Like, so if I'm putting too much, please tell me that, but I figure the more the better, and the public could see that.
sometimes I like to be able to print the stuff that's in the portal, and sometimes I have a problem with that.
You should be able to print it.
I should be able to, okay.
You may have to,
I
you may
see
have to
Kim's
pop
got
it out.
printouts, I didn't know if she
Yeah,
was.
you may have to
special.
pop it out.
It's
so you
just
can just
20
document it.
pages long.
I don't want 20 pages.
Just be
Yeah.
aware of the law that sometimes if you use your personal phone for business, it can set you up to another whole set of laws you don't want. They can pull you into the HR policy, you know, they can take your phone. Do you want your phone taken? I mean, your family member can take the phone and, you know, start
So if you
scrolling
get
and
a
reading this
text-
stuff.
If you get a text message from John and you don't wanna use text message, then you could turn around and email him. Would that be okay?
It will
I
be
mean, I
starting
don't
from
think- Then
nothing.
everybody-
I don't think an email between the two of you constitutes as.
It doesn't, neither does a single text message to constitute the same thing, it's the same,
Yeah.
there's no difference between email and text at this juncture in the game.
But if I delete the text messages and someone pulls a right to know, we don't have an audit of that.
Yes, I mean, that's the downfall.
No, you don't have an audit of, I don't know,
On the, out about our emails, are they backed up?
they're backed up, but if you delete them, you delete them.
Sometimes the phones die, you throw them out, you know, I don't know,
Well,
text
I
messages,
have-
I delete them all the time.
I have several, I mean, you know, town managers, town administrators, and town people that run off two phones. They have their work phone and they have their, I choose not to. I mean, if you just know text.
I don't wanna make your job harder either, John.
It's not hard for me. Okay, anything else on that topic?
So how are we leaving that? How do we leave it? Or just agenda only?
Single,
and-
no, it's single, if the board, if the chair feels it's warranted to reach out to the members to keep them informed, the chair is going to do that. If you don't wanna partake and listen to it, then don't listen to it. At the end of the day, I mean, at the end of the day, my job is to make sure you all are well-informed of things that are going on in town that I may be aware of, that Kim and I are aware of, and no one's told you yet, or whatever. I'm trying to keep you in the loop.
But no decisions are made unless all
No
of us
decisions
vote.
are ever made.
Okay, that's, I'm just saying, no decisions should be made.
To date, no decision has ever been made.
I didn't
via
say it
text.
was, John, I'm just verifying. You have information we don't have, we see it, you've already digested it for 2 hours, we're just seeing it. Decisions shouldn't be made until everybody
I-
sees it,
I
that's
would
all I'm
n-
saying.
I would never do that to anybody, to make a decision
Okay,
without having.
I didn't think you would, I'm just making it clear out there.
Okay,
Use of town logo.
yeah, use the town logo. So
Important.
I had this put on because the request came from Heidi Miller, right?
Heidi Miller.
Through the historical site, about using our town logo on a coloring book she wants to do. Obviously, I don't see any objection to it. The reason why I brought it forward is because I couldn't find anywhere we actually have ever authorized the Historical Society to use the logo without coming in front of us. I went through the minutes, I have found references of them using it in the past, but I've actually never saw any approvals. It was like, I think in 2000, there was
Is
a.
there not a
comment-
board or a commission or a
In our
department
policy, it
or?
doesn't clearly state them, so.
Right, so the history of this is Heidi Miller made the seal back in
Yeah.
1970, whatever. She gave it to the town, but the Historical Society has the right to use it at any time.
Where does
So
That's
I
not
think,
what the
I
town
think, I
seal
know it's not the
policy
policy, and I
says.
think Bob and I had talked about this in the past. So I said, maybe you need to reach out to both of them. I don't know why she would say that, because this is what they say at the meeting that I'm going to over the years, so if you wanna reach out to those two.
Added to the
Yeah,
policy.
just add them, just add them,
But if you add it as a bullet.
just add them.
But if you add it as a bullet, I think people can in the future just say, remove that, but maybe put a paragraph in, you know, that was donated by them.
That
But
would
I
be
but
nice.
verify it if you, you
But
know,
here's
That
my
would be
concern,
nice
I
if you got
guess,
that to Kim and she could just add it.
I think we should.
I would say board, commission, or
Historical
the
Society.
historical society.
but if you wanna verify it, please do, but that's what I've
I
heard at the
believe you.
meetings.
So
believe you.
I will ask you this question, hypothetically. Heidi Miller designed it, it was given to the town as our seal, it's now
She's an
our
art
legal
teacher.
embossed seal.
Yeah.
She can't take it away from us, but we have a legal right to protect that seal. So I think, again, the best way to do it is just to add it there.
I agree. Just
I've
add
seen
it.
references of it being asked for in the past, but there's no vote ever saying yes that I could find. And that's why I brought it forward. I think we should just make the modification to the policy.
I think we gave her the right to use it, because it's hers.
Yeah, it says here, the town of Litchfield produced a seal, they didn't produce the seal,
No, they did not. Heidi produced it.
that's wrong.
Yeah, so
We
let's change
accepted it.
that.
I think it
But we
should,
gave
it
her
should be
the right.
designed by Heidi Miller, given to the town of Litchfield on this time. It is now the town's legal seal. The town has legal right to it, not her.
And then she's get forever
get it.
credit for
Right,
it though,
100%.
too.
I
It's
I
would
would
kinda
say
nice
the
to have
town
that.
Gave
of
her the right to
Litchfield
use it.
has adopted
When
a
we
seal.
accepted it, that was a
That was
That
the
was
deal
the
they made.
discussion.
When was this?
Wasn't that
That's what I'm
many
saying,
years
reach
ago.
out to them, they would
Town
tell
seal-
them.
on the board
The town
6 years.
seals, the town seal's been the town seal as long as I've been
She
here.
did it in 1976 or
Yeah.
something like that.
So, I'm saying, and you may have done it, I couldn't find anything in the minutes, that's why I brought it forward. And I do think we just should need to add that and just take the policy, open it up, and let's make that change and get it for approval for the next meeting. That clarifies it, because I don't think we want to restrict her, I mean, restrict the historical society.
But I think if you add it as a bullet, and 10 years from now, we're all gone, somebody says, remove that bullet. You know, I think it should be a paragraph in there.
Why it's.
Why they
I
have
would,
it.
I would memorialize that it was a design by.
And I
Heidi
would
Miller,
memorialize
donated
her
to the
name,
town, and-
Which would
Yeah.
be respectful.
And adopted in 1997 as
Or
the
what,
town
forget the
seal.
year that they actually did
Yeah,
it.
whatever-
There was
yeah,
some
whatever,
contest
really.
she did.
Yeah.
I-
But that they have a right to use it, that was the deal they made, but I'd verify that. You know it because your sister's in there, right? But two of them.
Okay, can we get it, can we agree that we get it to Mrs. Miller
Yes.
ASAP?
I make a motion that we authorize the Historical Society to use the town seal.
And add Heidi Miller's name as
and
creating.
And additionally, update the current town seal use policy to include the narrative around how the seal was created and when it was adopted by the town, and that also additionally add the Historical Society as a valid user with item to come from the Board of Selectmen. That's my motion.
I second that
Thanks,
motion.
John.
I
All
second
right, I
that
have a
motion.
motion made by myself, second by Ms. Plansky. Any other discussion?
I would like to see her name added to the users, if it's not there now, but I think it's there because we did discuss this
It's not in the
as a
policy.
board.
This is the
So then we
current,
need to add her to it, huh?
this is
Add her as
the
a
current
user or in
one.
the
Yep.
Historical
Yeah, because it's
Society?
her seal.
It's,
You can't tell someone who made
no, I
something
got it, it's,
that they no longer can use it.
okay.
It's her invention, it's her,
Let's make
creation.
sure we memorialize how she created it, and then let's leave her add her as a user.
Okay.
Maybe it's copyright.
I think it's
It
the right
is,
thing to
it
do.
is copy, I don't think. you
100
need
years
to do
past
that.
your death, it was the current one.
No, like I said, let's add her, I think that makes sense. Add it to the bottom, add her as a valid user also. Alright. Any other discussion?
I just thought it was kinda weird that she asked for it, though.
She was,
Use it
very-
under coloring
They're
book.
just being polite.
she was lovely, she came.
Oh, no, no,
She
but
is
she
lovely.
probably, I just thought she knew she could use it, so.
She is
Well,
lovely.
let's get her in there, so.
Alright, all in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries 400.
Good lord.
That's
Are
why
you
I
gonna
print.
send it to her?
Yes,
I
exactly.
can, yeah. I don't have her email.
I
though.
miss printed paper.
Oh, okay, I'll
honestly.
send you her email.
Yeah, I can say, I have
Cause mine won't send.
Okay, I can send it to her.
Okay.
Oh, no.
Bill by replacing
Yeah, just send me, I get a couple different versions of it, I can send it to her.
Okay.
Alright, so next is, House Bill 475 discussion. Kim?
Yes. So, 475, I know that, John discussed this with the Budget Committee, and there have been clarifying points made to this, and I just want everyone to be on the same page, because legal departments, and not specifically Mitchell Group, but lawyers with the NHMA, lawyers from other municipalities are weighing in on this and discussing this. And it is an issue. So currently, and this is up for signature by the governor, she hasn't signed it yet, but both the House and the Senate have adopted it. So, first, we were a little concerned about the fact that if the default budget is voted in and you've had a position that has been vacant for longer than a year, it does not matter if you are actively recruiting.
Really?
That position comes out.
Even if the voters voted in by warrant?
If they're worded in
If
again.
they
It's
said,
been vacant.
if it's been vacant, it's out.
Does that affect the school too? Would
If
that
they
affect it?
got default, I don't
It's out.
see why this does not just apply, 475 does not just apply to towns.
What do you mean by it's
We,
out?
it applies
be
to
carried as
default
default.
budgets.
It's gonna be moved.
So you're saying if the voters approve to hire somebody in 1 year, and then the following year,
We
we
haven't
hit the
filled
cap,
it.
we didn't fill it, and we hit this default budget, what happens? We keep it
Goes
open?
away,
Comes
goes
out.
away.
If
It's
it's been
gone?
if it's open 1 year though, right?
If it's open for a year. So say
Okay,
2022, the voters approve a warrant article to hire a police officer. And it's in your budget for 2022, and you don't hire anyone, and you get over to 2023 and they approve the default budget, that position doesn't get, if it's still unfilled, it doesn't get. So,
Now, would that still apply to positions that you have to hold legally? Like, we had a police officer over there,
Service member?
yeah, who was deployed for a number of years. And we had to keep that position open, even though the
No.
the budget committee pulled it out a
It's
couple
not
years ago.
vacant, isn't it?
it's not vacant.
Well, they didn't fill it.
We still
vacant.
argue that point,
Yeah.
and with all due respect to the budget committee, it was not vacant. He was on leave, he's on military leave.
Yeah, it was the wrong thing to do, but they
Yeah.
did it.
So the situation, if this bill was in place at this default season, when we calculated the default, the 2 open positions in the police department would not be allowed to be carried.
If they were open for more than a
They've
year.
been open for more than a year. And that means now the deficit we're already in would have been even greater because we don't have that as a buffer.
Correct.
And then we get back to the following year, now we're gonna increase the budget based on the drop, which is now we're capped by the cap, cause now we can't get it back in because of the cap.
Oh, it gets worse. It gets worse. It doesn't get better.
And we should defer this conversation.
what
Um,
triggered this to happen, though? What triggered this bill? Was that of job openings, or unfulfilled job?
No,
They're trying
I
to
think it's
fulfill the spirit
control
of
over the
the
default.
It's the spirit
think-
of the default.
Yeah.
I think a lot of it is because sometimes you have a default budget that's higher than your regular budget.
You know what I
See,
mean?
you learn, this is what I
And
mean.
it's an
That's what I
attempt to
think.
make the default budget automatically be under the regular
Make
budget.
it what it is
Well,
now.
what was the budget that you would vote for, unless you voted for the current budget, the default budget was more? How many years did that
It
happen?
happened a bunch of years.
Bunch.
Well, this is to try and get rid of that.
Yeah, that's, makes sense to me.
Well, the problem was, there was a lot of arguments about, we should, taking stuff out of the default, when you didn't, like, if you reduced your budget by, from 20 pencils to 10 pencils,
Yep.
reduce it by 10, you can't do that, and we did it, and we got chastised for doing it, because it would lower the default. It's, I don't know,
But we
it
think
hurts,
there's-
it does hurt, I mean, it's
we
gonna hurt.
think there's some things in this that might be legally challenged. So, for instance, the next one is employee salaries and benefits, right? So, for instance, you get the default doesn't have the health insurance changes. Normally, like this year, even though the default didn't have those health insurance changes, we find it in other line items, right?
Had
Cause you
to.
can't have your
Had to,
employees lose
without-
their,
Right, yep.
but this new version says if it wasn't approved by the voters, you can't pay it. And selectmen can't move items. I think that will be challenged, because the very definition of RSA 3210 states that the governing body has the ability to change and move line items.
Cause it's a
As-
bottom line budget.
Right.
Yep.
So I think that will be legally challenged, but at least the way it's written, they take that away, and I don't think they can, or they definitely shouldn't, but.
For things like insurance, you can't change.
But it severely threatens us, like you have contracts with me, the police chief, the captain. So you've entered into contracts, are you gonna not
Well,
default on the contracts? Because
cause then we
this-
get sued.
Right, cause this bill tells you, you know, anything, the website, I mean, anything.
Right.
Not necessarily, and I think it definitely makes it harder for the governing body to attract and retain good employees, because it takes away any decision of the governing body to give people increases.
Is this on the town side only, or is this school as well?
It's default, it doesn't say town or school,
But
it
this'll
says
hurt the school.
default.
I mean, they have openings for teachers and, yeah,
I know.
Yeah, all the paras they have, they have tons of para openings and.
they do, so they would lose that if it's open a year.
So we've been,
They're in
you
a
know,
hiatus for 3 months, right?
I think there's other clarification that needs to come. And I understand the residents, a number of towns got default, and I fully understand people's concerns on the economic on the economic conditions of the country and what people are being hit with, in their own household budgets, but this could stop the town from operating correctly. So, I wanted to bring that to your attention, cause as more stuff comes out on it, I think it's a
Thank you for that.
conversation.
At the moment, it's just people. What if we have this for cars and trucks? And
It's, yeah, it could be anything, right? It's
Yeah.
not just the people, it's
It's,
at the moment, it's people, but
but, yeah, you're right, it could be anything.
All right. Next up is, finance HR software upgrade. Do you want me to say it, or you?
it wasn't bad.
I think the bottom line is this, so we've been running on we've been running on a system called BMSI as long as I've been here. The software has been sunsetted, it is no longer being maintained well, and it doesn't, there's a big chance that next year, when DRA makes changes, they're not gonna be making adjustments to the system for us to continue using it. So we're kinda up against the wall. The path forward is to adopt what they call G-Works. It's a system that actually currently runs our payroll system today. It was our longer term plan anyway. We just didn't feel like, we didn't realize it was gonna be that quick, that they were gonna sunset the current software. And, so we need to kinda make a decision on what to do next. It's not like we can not do something, because at the end of the day, we have reports that have to go to DRA, things have to come out of the system. If they're not maintaining it, we could be down, we can't pay our bills, we can't do, anything in the finance system. So we're looking for approval to kinda go forward and getting the system replaced and transitioned, to meet the kind of deadline for next year.
What kind of training curve is there gonna be for people using it?
So the actual, inside the system itself, there's definitely a training curve. Both Heather and Karen and also Kim go into payroll. It's based on the same kind of system, the payroll's done, same kind of design, kind of workflows. As far as the workflows go within the finance system, it's very similar to what we have on our current system. It's just a newer design, a few extra steps you have to do. We've been through the reviews with them a couple times. We just never made a decision. And, like I said, we don't really have a lot of choice. There are other packages for maybe more money, but there's not a real, there's not a good package that is less or available that would do the data transfer too, because this is also takes care of the data transfer from our current systems into this system.
Is this the company that bought the old legacy one or something?
This is BMSI, then G-Works bought BMSI,
Okay,
yeah.
so this is good,
Oh, yeah.
this is the next, well,
Yeah,
it's gotta be the next generation.
Yep.
Anyway, right?
yeah, the unfortunate part is it's not planned, and we have to, but, we thought we had another couple of years. This year it's become very apparent that they're not supporting the new old system.
So this would go into the budget though?
this will have to go into next year's budget, yes.
But you don't have to make the change this year,
We
or
have
you
to
do?
make a change this year.
Oh, okay, all right.
So I had proposed we can use, my expendable trust fund to help bridge the gap. What we can't carry in the budget today, what we can't carry at the end of the year, we can take out of the trust fund to do that. The only concern I have about that is that I am faced with another $7,000 repair. So, so I will have to ask for funding to go back into that fund next year. But
This is the day-to-day running of the,
yeah, it's the day they
Has to
run it.
happen.
oh,
Yeah, it's our,
It has to happen.
it's our fund it's our fund accounting system, it's our liability and pay, accounts payable system.
So, if you've exhausted all other options, I make a motion that we make this change immediately and take the money from the Technology and Communications Trust Fund.
If needed.
Well, it looks like it's
Well,
gonna be
the
needed, cause you've only
1250.
got,
Yeah, it's gonna be, it's gonna be
you've
12.
got, what, 5,500 budgeted, 5,900 budgeted, and it could be 69,
Yeah,
so
it's gonna
you'd
be
need
30
another 1,000.
Yeah, it's 13,200 in total to do it, plus another $2,500, so we would have to take, 16 from the trust fund if needed. But obviously we'll do that at the end of the year when we figure out what we are.
I make that motion, that we do that.
Do I have a second?
yeah, I'll second.
Question.
Oh, sorry.
Oh, sorry.
Oh, did you second it?
Yeah, because
Okay, then
I had
I'll-
a question after for discussion.
Okay,
Yeah,
okay, she second, okay, go ahead.
So seconded by Ms. Queenan.
Okay.
Yes.
For discussion.
Go ahead.
I just was, my question was just, should we wait and have Steve here when we're doing this as well?
Steve.
Gannon,
Gannon.
Oh,
the guy that's missing.
Steve who?
Oh, he's usually not so quiet either.
I mean, no, I'm not against it, I'm just curious if we should, if he should be here for that.
Is it time sensitive?
And I don't care, if you say no, then that's fine.
I don't have, I'm gonna abstain, so it's up to you three folks whether you wanna do it or not, but, again, there's not a lot of options. There's not a lot of off-the-shelf software that we can buy that would take the place.
And again, I'm not against it, I'm just, is it a courtesy thing to have him vote on this or not? Because it is an expenditure and a change of a program.
not sure. I mean, I get it's a change of our program, but you have two choices.
You can say no.
We could go out and we could research other vendors, which would really be a change of a program. This is more of an update from BMSI, their current program, to G-Works, which is their next step. I think financially, it's the right move to make, because any other package is probably going to be more than we need and more expensive.
You
If,
get to keep your legacy data?
Yeah, but it all gets imported in.
good
So
thought.
their existing system's becoming obsolete. This company bought them.
Right.
They're gonna force you to use them anyway, right?
And my
And you keep your existing data.
yeah, my
Don't lose your
concern
data.
is exactly what, Mr. Brunel said, that the DRA or anyone makes a change that BMSI won't support. And then what do we do?
I think Bella brings up a good point. I mean, is there a
We can
courtesy?
wait.
I didn't know if there was a time crunch, like you have a contract.
We don't have a timeline yet, so we can wait till the next meeting and
Yeah.
have Steve weigh in.
Okay.
And wait then.
Yeah, it's not an issue.
So I'll make a motion to table?
Yep.
Yep.
So you can withdraw your motion
I withdraw my motion. Do you withdraw your second?
I withdraw my second.
and if we're in agreement, we'll just table it to the next meeting and I'll add it to the agenda and let Steve weigh in.
Okay.
And like I said, it's the current system we run our payroll on today. So it's just building off of that same payroll system we're already on today. It'll be the same interface, same kind of, workflow. And they do, like I said, they do tailor a lot of their stuff to New Hampshire and small communities like us.
We getting
Okay.
anything new out of it? It's
Oh.
like,
Well, the only thing, so the HR hub is new, that's gonna be potentially a benefit where we do payroll and, not payroll, but time cards and stuff like that. We don't really have an HR hub today, so it's something they recommend to pull together, get all the reports out you need for DRA and retirement and all that stuff, so
That might make it easy for you.
could make it a little bit easier for the folks in the
It
back
could make
office.
it a lot easier for Karen and I.
So it saves money. We're gonna save
Yes,
$6,960 in time.
It is,
Make it more efficient anyway.
Well, it just, if, you know, it just so frequently happens that they just age out their stuff and they just stop.
Well,
So
again,
annoying.
they've been aging out their system for a long
Yeah.
time and we've just been hanging on with bills.
Well, cause it was working somewhat.
Yeah, it's been interesting. All right, so we'll table it to the next meeting. We'll make that a topic and we'll get Steve filled in. Next up is town administrator and selectman reports. So Ms. Kleiner.
real quick, everyone saw the June newsletter. I am looking for suggestions. So we're asking boards and commissions for items to put in the newsletter. The town department heads do a great job sending stuff over. How can we get this out to residents? Like,
Sure.
how?
It's being posted everywhere.
I know, but people aren't seeing it.
Yeah, the challenge is we're posting it on the site. We're posting it in snippets or posting it in sections on the social media pages, plus the WhatsApp pages. It's getting impressions. If I look at some of the posts that generate, it does get impressions. If people are seeing it, they may not be interacting with it, but they're seeing it.
Is it just Facebook? Are we doing Twitter?
It's on Twitter.
Are we doing all these other things?
Doesn't go on LinkedIn.
But anything else?
It goes on Twitter.
I don't do Twitter.
X, I don't know.
I don't
whatever they-
tweet, I'm not a
I don't
tweeter.
tweet.
It-
I don't
yeah.
tweet.
I'm not a tweeter.
It goes on X.
Yeah.
I don't
Are you
X
getting
either.
hits on that?
No.
Does NRPC tries to keep track of who's visiting and what plot, what they're doing?
Not
Yeah.
not that I'm seeing. I'm not seeing a whole lot on Twitter, on X, but,
Does it need a snazzier title?
again, it's
We
like,
we can change the title.
I was trying, because it's,
I-
are they opening it?
we don't track their opening. We can't
Yeah.
track the opening.
So, but we're
Well,
trying.
it'd be hard to tell if they're opening it, if they're on all these other platforms as well. I mean, you can tell on your
Well-
own platform.
Well,
they're
that's the thing. We used to post it, when we posted it, when it gets posted from the town, it does get posted with the link to the town website, so we'll see the impressions on the town website.
Okay,
But when we post it over on the other places, it's just the pages.
right,
We're just looking for the impressions.
right.
We don't have a lot of tracks there, and I'm not into, doing pixel tracking, so that could be something we could try.
I mean, that Buffy the dog would just draw people in, right?
Well, it's funny.
I would think it would,
What's
but I'm a
interesting,
dog
You know,
person.
maybe snippets.
That was
little
really
snippets.
cute.
what's interesting, some of the individual stories, like when somebody sent one up on Facebook by themselves, they attracted a lot of attention. Like the dog thing attracted a lot of attention.
Yeah,
The follow-up from the vets event that was here when I was away on vacation, that attracted a lot of attention. So, and then the.
so
second
it's
post
more,
that I saw-
rather than a newsletter, it's more these individual
Yeah.
things that are actually getting people to look. And it's something that when I would put something together, I would wanna try and be like 2 minutes. Get in, get out, get done. Use a topic that I know is hot and current right now that people are talking about and bring more information to it. So that would like guarantee that people were interested in what I was trying to say. So if you get something and you're doing small pieces of it and that's getting attention, well, that's good, right?
Yeah.
So maybe just smaller, shorter, more often.
Podcast.
Well, that wasn't well received when I came on, so. But yeah, I mean, you are getting attention. You are
Oh.
getting, I mean, the things that are happening, and which is what you want people to understand what's happening in town,
Right.
right? I mean, that's really what it's for.
I think
So-
that, I do think the monthly newsletter is nice, cause it's a lot of stuff in one place and you can see it all.
Yeah,
But I think we
for
still have
people
to-
that are gonna read it.
We still have to get out the sort of the weekly things too, some of the things of higher interest, make sure like we've been doing, so. Gotta just do more of it.
When you
Okay.
put out the interesting stuff, like with the dog and stuff, you just put the little thingy on that they can click and get back to the link to the newsletter maybe.
Oh. that's
Yeah,
a
that may
good
be another way to do it too, is just take some of the stories and reference that and then post the whole thing. They click it, they get the whole thing. Put
Like-
all
Yeah.
the stuff
Yeah.
on there, so.
That's a good
Maybe
idea.
the next, maybe the July newsletter, we can think about another way of posting it all.
Okay.
Try that. See if that works.
Senate Bill 297, that's the insurance one, that's a risk pool. The House did vote for the amendment, which allows health trust to go under the Department of Insurance and school care to go stay under the Secretary of State. They're giving them choice. So we're waiting on Thursday to see if the Senate supports that. That would mean health trust stays, although I really wanna say we're expecting large increases, so. But that's the best outcome we could get. Mosquitoes, everybody's favorite subject. So,
Makes
Mr.
me wanna salute the
Jensen
flag.
let us know they are tracking the mosquitoes. And although it has been, very rainy and warm with humid temperatures, that our mosquito population is still down.
That's good.
Which I guess is good. So I'm gonna put information on the community page on the website, and so that people can track it like I did last year, but they are out testing and they have not seen any concerns yet. So that's a good thing. June 11th at 6:30 PM, we've put this out for the boards and commissions on the meeting here. And we'll be pushing tables and having a lot more chairs and things, so everyone's comfortable.
Wouldn't be easier to do over at the fire station?
It's on Wednesday, that's their fire.
Yeah, and, we thought, and be different department heads here, and they're all presenting on their items. The revaluation, so the week of June 16th, which is next week, notice of values will be going out to the homeowners. And the week of the 7th and the 14th of July are the informal hearings if anyone has questions on those new values. I have asked for a sample letter and preliminary values to put up on the website.
Okay.
Page. And then down below, there's a very large document. This is the Hillsborough County budget. And
Well, they're gonna hammer us,
they're
right?
having a public hearing. And the public hearing is because they have 3 collective bargaining agreements that need approval. They have an easement and increases to the sheriff's fees. So all of those items require a public hearing. They are asking for communities, people to attend. The problem is, it's kind of interesting. So the total budget goes down from 2025 to 2026. But don't get too excited, because the amount to be raised by taxes goes up. So, unfortunately, the amount to be raised by taxes in 2025 was about 71 million. And as you can see in this document, the amount right now proposed to be raised by taxes is 80. So, even though the total budget goes down, the amount that's being raised by taxes, and most of that is because the amount being reduced by ARPA funds, and the use of ARPA funds has had to go down. So, if anyone wants to attend, it's Wednesday, June 18th, a week from this Wednesday at 5 p.m. And if anyone is gonna attend and wants a paper copy of this, just let me know. We'll make them a copy. That's all I have.
Alright. Selectmen reports, Recreation Commission, Mr. Leary?
You heard it.
All right, let's see. I was on a business trip, but it appears the SIP meeting was canceled on June 2nd. What was the reason for that?
No quorum, right?
Not a quorum?
We didn't have a quorum.
Okay.
Yep.
So department heads are still gathering their information anyway, right? We're still on track for budget and end of year, right?
We are. We have a number of departments who will be ready to present the next meeting.
I'll give you a call tomorrow, just so we can get more meetings on the, town calendar. I know there's like 2 places you put it, and so I just wanna make sure that that's there. We'll need one for July 7th. August appears there in September 1st, but I'll call you on that tomorrow.
Okay.
Economic Development Committee, I have a handout if you guys would like it of everything we have done to date. We have met like 9 or 10 times. We are writing the report at this point. We're still waiting for zoning changes, although I did get some from Laura, so we can put that up. You went over this with them. We spent a few days on that. We're about, so we have all of that ready to go with all of the tax information, land information, population information, all of the stuff we're gonna need for the planning board, which was one of our mandates that we had to do anyway, and our recommendations. So if you want, I can give you ones that that'll look familiar to you, since you're a part of that as well. So that is ongoing. When again, I was on a business trip, but you met May 28th. You went over it, Peter Ames, right? We're gonna separate out pieces of the reports for people to write, and then we'll consolidate it together. The way I thought we left it is there may be a meeting June 10th or June 25th. I don't know if there was a decision made on that.
June 25th.
Okay, so we'll just make sure that's also on the calendar tomorrow. NRPC, so this is with the budgets at the state level. Not that I'm complaining, but it's the first time I've seen an unfunded mandate. So it's required that you have these RPCs by the state, but they took away the money that they used to give us to run them. So it's not a ton of money, but that's okay. Actually, the fees for Litchfield will be going down next year, not by much, but it's gonna be going down. Yeah. Again, based on population and the value of your town, which I guess is being evaluated at this point. All right, we meet June 18th, which is 2 weeks from now for the executive committee and the full commission meeting. So I have good news on the NRPC front. They won 2 grants for $500,000 each from the EPA, which I was surprised with all the cutting going on over there. And I don't know if you know, we set up a 501c, a nonprofit part of NRPC, because some people want to donate to the nonprofit, but they use it to help NRPC. We landed another $1 million grant for the Brownsfield, so that'll be going out, and we can tell the 13 communities, if there's a grant available that they would like to go after. So I'm glad we had $2 million worth of grants. Let's see.
Anything Litchfield should want?
The Brownsfield grants are usually if you have a contaminated site and you need to clean it up and then build on it.
Oh, we don't want that.
Well, we might have, I don't know if we have any, but we can look.
We don't want to have.
No, we don't want it, but so a lot's being done in, what's the town out there? Starts with a W. Wilton is using a lot of those up. The one good thing about that $1 million grant, just so you know, I'll just keep it short, is because it's a nonprofit, we're setting it up that if people go out, contractors, to fund a project and they have bank funding, and they might be a little bit short of money, we can give them the money as a loan and collect interest, puts it right back in the fund. So we're happy about that. All right, the last item I have is Friday. I have a meeting with that Commission of Environmental and Public Health impacts of fluorocarbonation of PFAS. So anyway, that is Friday the 13th at 2 p.m. It's the minutes from that meeting were 52 pages, just from the last meeting. So I will check with this attorney and make sure it's public, and if it is, we'll put it up to the portal for everybody to read. So that is since, this has been going on since, 2018 or 16, so it's an up-to-date of where we are on that. I will attend Vicky Varick's retirement, but then I gotta get right over to the high school, because I think they're graduating quickly there. And I think that's all I have at the moment.
Okay.
Thank you.
Ms. Brinkley?
I went to the, conservation meeting last week, and it was a very busy commission meeting, as always. They are a very, very productive group. The, fishing derby was a success. The Parker Park area to do this in is amazing, the way they've cleaned it up. It's all wide open, there's room for the kids. Kids they were fishing from the bridges, they were able to go through the garden. It's really become a cohesive place. It's very much what I had pictured in my head. The garden itself has grown almost 100% as far as users go. We have new apartments coming in, and I envision that we'll be cutting down the lots, and that would be going on. But they're still working on getting water to the sites. The milfoil might be done this month for Dara Pond. George Lavash is in charge of that, and he's been in touch with the gentleman, and all of the right-to-know stuff has gone out to all the people that are around Dara Pond to let them know that it would be occurring. The DeRocha to close is possible in early August. There's been some more backtracking. Again, I guess there's like some communications between the lawyers that have slowed down again. But Jason's pushing valiantly forward on that. We also talked about possibly having a townwide type of celebration for the agricultural land that's gonna be added to the town, over on the side where the blueberries used to be, when this actually is all done. Reggie Moreau was at that meeting, and he brought up something interesting. They had wanted, part of his requirement is he has to put a, behind the fence that's there, sidewalk from the Old Horse Farm through to where the, Moores Falls is, and then again for we'd have them in for the, crosswalk, and that was supposed to have been, on our side, it was supposed to have been dirt and packed, and Kevin wasn't real thrilled about that. Reggie Moreau feels like he can go and get that changed so that it would be paved. It would be a much better situation as opposed to dealing with that. So that's all going on. It's always a very huge board. There was a bird walk this weekend. And then, so that was one thing I did. I tried to get together with the Heritage, but there was some confusion with the chair away. So we ended up not having a meeting because it wasn't publicized correctly beforehand. I went to the CERT meeting. I'll be helping direct traffic so that they're able to do the 4th of July parade. That board's still going strong. It's a little bit smaller than it was, but it was nice to go back and visit. Let's see, what else did I do? I'm gonna be going to Vicky's and to the graduation as well. I think I went to the fishing derby, did the 4th of July parade, or the Memorial Day parade. It was really well done by the town as always. And, I think that's pretty much sums up my month.
Very good. I think I'm last, so, let's see, School Facility Committee, I did go to the last meeting. They pretty much wrapped up the RFP and then got that submitted to the school board, which is now in their hands to submit it out, so I think that's all wrapping up. There's a lot more work ahead of them though, obviously, as soon as they start get to the nitty gritty of the RFP results. Budget Committee meeting, it was unnotable for the most part. The schedule's locked in. There was some discussions around some of the upcoming stuff with the default and all that, but other than that, it was the real work doesn't start for another month or two. And then there was no emergency meeting, and I did also attend Memorial Day, and it was a great event. As always, beautiful weather for a change, so it was nice, and Bob did a nice job.
Thank you.
So, that's it for me. I'm not aware of a non-public, so, right, there is no non-public, so I will, at this point, if there's no other business for this board, I will accept the motion to adjourn.
So
A
made.
second, oops, sorry.
Motion to adjourn by Mr. Leary, seconded by Mrs. Plansky. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, motion carries 4-0-0. Good night, Litchfield. This meeting is now adjourned at 10:10.
Wow, 10:10.